The topic of the today's session will be on self-management, especially exploring sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic qualities. For the session, the expert for the same is Shri Shushruth Badhe. Uh, Shri Shushruth Badhe is a well-known Indian author and a researcher in the field of Sanskrit scriptures and manufacturer of an Ayurvedic product company. In fact, Sir had also taken another session earlier, deep diving into Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti Yoga and also various dimensions of it. So we are really glad and happy to have you with us again. One of his very prominent contributions is translation of Sanskrit texts in rhymed English. His notable work includes Bhagavad Gita, Rhythm of Krishna, where he has rendered all 700 verses of the Gita into English rhymes, preserving the original rhythm and rhyming scheme. In fact, Sir has been very kind enough to share with the organizing team the work also, which we have already shared with you on the Telegram group. We hope you will be able to make good use of the same. In fact, for this contribution, he has accomplished a space in Limca Book of Records. And beyond his literary pursuits, he's deeply involved in understanding the therapeutic effects of Vedic chants. And he's currently working with a neurologist in Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research in Puducherry. He also serves as the CEO of KVM Research Laboratories, where he focuses on handcrafting and researching Ayurvedic medicines for skincare, hair care, pain relief, and overall wellness. With this, I now invite Sir to please address the gathering.
Namaste, madam. One request, if I can, is if we can have a gallery view so that all people can be seen, that whoever have turned on the video feeds, so it is easier for interaction. Also, people will not get bored seeing my face continuously for 3 hours. So if we can keep it in gallery view, it will be easier to interact. Just one request, if it's possible, madam.
Done, sir.
I think, yeah, it's already done, Sir.
All right,
Yeah.
madam. So fine. So I think with this, I'll just begin with a small invocation to Mother Saraswati, and then we'll start. सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् Namaste. I am grateful to my Guru Sri Madhusudan Damliji, to the organizers of Ramanujan College and Rishihood University, especially Dr. Lataji and Dr. Preetiji, as well as Dr. Sampananda Mishraji, for this opportunity to interact with a learned audience. So, without any delay, I would like to begin. So, our topic will have two parts. The first part is going to be on self-management, especially in light of these three gunas, which are mentioned in the Gita. Somebody who has read the Gita will might probably know that these three gunas are Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. But what are they? Are they operating in this world, or are they operating only on the people who are reading the Gita? Do they have any practical value? Next, to understand that, we must also understand there is something called Maya. Maya, or the illusion of Maya, what is it? Again, is it there, or that also is just a myth? So that is something we will look at, and then understand the three gunas as explained by Krishna in the Gita. I will attempt my best to try to understand and share a little bit what I understood about the three gunas. And the second part, we will be looking at the modes of learning, family, and society as modes of action. Meaning, how do we utilize these? We have in Bharat or in India, we are very, very grateful to have a good family structure. Most of the countries outside are lacking that. So, but how do we utilize that to progress? Is it good for progress? Or many people say it hinders progress. But what is it? We will look at it in the light of these three gunas. So we just begin. And I would again request we can have an interactive session. If I say something which is not fully resonating with everybody, or if somebody has a diverging view, you are most welcome to point out any time. Yes, please. So we begin. So the question is, are we really under the influence of three gunas? Bhagavad Gita talks about three gunas. The first time we see the introduction of one of the gunas, it is Rajas guna. That is when Krishna first talks about what is a sthita prajna, somebody who is very realized. Then he tells that there is a divinity inside every living being. Now, one of the beautiful aspects of the Gita is the permission to ask questions. Krishna has given him for all 18 chapters. Arjuna keeps asking. We are very lucky that Arjuna is asking questions. If somebody like me was in front of Krishna, he would have only two-line Gita. Krishna would say Yuddha so, and I would say Astuji, Namaskaram, and I would have gone. It would have been a very boring, no dialogue at all. But because Arjuna questions, and many times these questions are our own questions, we get to understand the intricacies of the higher truth, which has to be practically understood. Otherwise, there is not much realization if it is not brought into the material. So, that is exactly what Krishna strives. So, when Krishna first tells Arjuna that there is a divinity inside everyone, immediately Arjuna's first question is, then why do people sin? If there is God, means divinity inside people, human beings, then why is it that people sin? That is a straightforward question. That time, the first mention of the guna comes. That time, Rajas guna is mentioned. Krishna says, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo guna samudbhavam. So he says this Raja guna is the reason that causes Kama and Krodha, desire and anger. It's like they are siblings, they come together. Desire comes, you invite desire, anger will also come because desires don't get fulfilled. And when desire does not get fulfilled, anger is going to be easily manifesting. So these two, and they have the power to destroy the greatest of great heroes, greatest of great characters. Sometimes people in a moment of desire, some kind of lust, some kind of thought, they just do something and suddenly they undo all the good that they have done. Then what is the reason? Well, they were under the influence of a wrong force, which is the Rajasic force. Somebody may say then Rajasic force is bad. No, Rajasic force is not bad. But one part of Rajas which causes Kama, which causes Krodha is bad. So we must recognize that first introduction has been done. But let us see now. Krishna is going to, he later on, initially he just mentions Rajas. It's a passing mention. Then he goes in later on in the Gita because then Arjuna is ready to receive this knowledge. Because today, one of the points also is about modes of learning, which we are going to be looking at. Where the first thing, it's like Shravana is also important. When you are able to hear, Shruti is so important. But then, how to hear is important. Then, what do you do after hearing? And then how does it become, whether it becomes, it moves forward to Manan, and then from Manan, is it going to go to the realization part also, or it's just going to be what they say in Hindi, khayali pulao, not going to manifest, just in the thought. So this aspect is very important, and we will look at it. Let us just look at the references before entering into the three gunas. Krishna says here, Prakrutehe kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashah. अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा कर्ताहम इति मन्यते. All the types of actions originated from nature's qualities and their interactions. The ignorant one who is by his ego deluded thinks his outer self performs all actions. So this ahankar is the reason many times. Everywhere ahankar is the reason for all the trouble. Beautiful relationship goes on smoothly and suddenly ahankar comes in, spoils the relationship which was going on so well. Work is going on very nicely. Individual's ahankar is suddenly flared up, again created some trouble. So here again ahankar is a problem. That is why all our Sanatan scriptures tell us that we have to start working on this. This is the enemy. Forget the enemy on the outside. The biggest enemy sometimes is sitting on the inside only, which has to be slain, and that is ahankara. So all types, Krishna says, all types of actions have originated because of the interaction. This is a metaphysical action taking place behind the scene. On the surface, it looks like we are in control, but actually there is something पीछे और कुछ हो रहा है, something else is happening. And this interaction between nature's qualities and the interactions, that is why a person is being deluded thinking I am doing everything. Many times in organizations some people say I am only doing everything, this organization is running because of me only. Suddenly, nature creates a situation, or this person gets transferred, goes elsewhere, and then the person is surprised. How is the organization functioning without me? How can it be successful? I am only the one, but it is not that. Because there is some force which is working. It is a concerted action like that in our universe also. There are forces at play, which is a work. It's like a team game which we don't even know about. Those are the gunas at play. Krishna goes on. He says, तत्त्ववित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयोः गुणा गुणेषु वर्तन्त इति मत्वा न संजते. Oh mighty armed one, why does Krishna keep calling Arjuna mighty armed one, Mahabahu? Is because he's trying to remind Arjuna, because right now Arjuna is in a state of depression. He has to take part in a battle which is something he never signed up for. Who wants to fight your own family members? Nobody wants it. Especially not Arjuna, who has worked so hard to rise so high in the society. He has done so many sacrifices. He has earned so many titles. Guna, he didn't like we sometimes work so hard we don't sleep. We sleep less. Arjuna had reached a state where he did not need to sleep only. Continuous sadhana was going on. After such a life of so much efforts, he has to fight his own people, and obviously, so his shoulders suddenly become droop. They droop down. That is where he surrenders, and that is how the Gita begins. Gita begins because Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and says, Karparnya dosho pahata svabhavaha pritchami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yat shreyaha syana nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. A grown-up man does not feel bad or does not feel he's not having the ahankar, and he is going to say, he surrender and say, I'm afraid, I don't know. Show the way, teacher. I will listen from you, listen to you, what you are saying. So that is what happens. And so remember, because sometimes we need to be reminded. A pat on our back. If nobody is there, give a pat on your own back, because you have to remind. Our Hanuman also, the great Maharudra, was reminded that you can take that great leap. I think sometimes come where we have to remind ourselves if we do not have anybody else reminding. The Upanishads also have some verses like that. Kruto smara kritam smara. Remember the great deeds you have done. Of course, they are talking to deeds which are even beyond maybe in previous births also. We don't know what we know only about this birth. So that realization is important. So here he says, "O mighty armed one, those who know the foundation of nature's qualities, of how nature's qualities through works function, know that the senses attach to sense objects and are unperturbed and detached in all aspects. Show an ice cream to a child, the child will start, his mouth will start salivating. Why? Senses react to the objects which attract. So Krishna says somebody who is deep, who has understood the foundation of this world, the working of the world, that person understands that these reactions are but normal. Nature's qualities function. This is how nature in the sense here is. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is called Prakriti. Prakriti is the divine counterpart of the Purusha in the Gita. Probably this must be covered in some of the other sessions as well. So this Prakriti and Purusha is a game of forces taking place in the world. We don't realize these forces, but Prakriti is at play. So Prakriti is only like the programmer who is installing these three, what we can call them operating systems if we want in modern terminology. Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. They have been installed inside of us by Prakriti. So somebody who understands, yes, somebody tells bad, you feel bad, isn't it? Somebody tells bad about you immediately because you've heard something you didn't like. So that's but a normal reaction. But Gita is not about being normal and bound to your lower nature. Gita is about transcending nature into a higher state. Arjuna has to learn, he has to learn not to run away from the challenge, but how to stand up and overcome the challenge. And that is where one must understand, okay, this is natural. I may do something nice, I may do something right, yet everybody will say this is the worst. You are the worst person. It's okay. It's all right. You have to tell yourself and move ahead because it's but natural. It will happen. Krishna says even the most perfect action has some amount of defect. Like that, the brilliant fire is also masked by what? Smoke. Fire is brilliant, fire is having teja, everything, but it is covered. So this is all right. Understand these action and reactions because these are part of nature. We have a program called Krishna's Butter for champion students, children's program, Gita Simplified for kids. There we talked about how we must become quiet, must become detached, not get carried away. One student got irritated and he said, "What is this? Do we have to become robots?" That was the question. This question, anybody agrees with this question of the child? Because it was a very nice question. Just don't get angry, don't get carried away by desires. Anybody? Because that student's question was so good that the teacher said, "Please give me some time. I will respond to you tomorrow. I will ask the other teachers and get back to you." And then we had a long discussion for almost 30 minutes, 40 minutes over this question of the student. So, is it practicable? Anybody? What do you think? Yes, please. I request questions to be told by orally because chat reading out the chat is a little difficult on the screen.
Yeah, you may unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, yes, ma'am. They can unmute.
I think the child has really asked very sound question.
Yes, ma'am. The child has asked the right question. You agree to it, or you disagree to it, or what is it? Your
No, no,
opinion,
I
ma'am?
do agree. It's really very difficult. Whatever
Ha,
has been said in Gita, to
ha, ha.
implement that thing is really very challenging and difficult.
So and we will become robots if we start following it, isn't it? The child is saying because he should
It's a
not have
child
desires.
terminology, robot, but
Yeah,
in our it's a difficult, little difficult, challenging.
but does it? Do we have to become robots though? Or is it possible without having to become, or are we already robots because we are going through action reaction due to indriyas, isn't it? We are going through a cycle.
Yes.
Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara, or what we call Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, meaning we are already having a fixed program. So we actually, okay, I think anybody else wants to add, you please add to what Madam just said, and then we go to this next part on the
I think
answer.
not only children, also the grown-ups have this question. Many a times I have
Yes.
faced this in class that when we say that udasina or
Ah,
gatavjata, they
Udasin,
say,
the same.
is it really possible to become like that? Are we not going away from the emotions? How are we going to
Ah,
control our instincts? So that's
yeah.
something very relevant. But of
Yes,
course,
yes, yes.
I'm looking forward to
I'll,
what your take is.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Fine, ma'am.
yeah.
So yes, actually, so that was a very nice question, and the best part is we should always welcome questions. As Madam was saying, this was a question that was asked in her own class as well. So this question actually, how to tell the child or how to explain all of this was a big discussion, and at the end, we were very clear in understanding and what to tell the child. And we told the child, see, by default, we are already acting like robots. You don't get food. You start getting irritated and cranky. You start fighting with the person next to you, even if it's your friend. Your mama must be doing so many nice things, but you forget everything because your stomach is now empty. You start getting reacting. So, in a way, we are already being controlled by these gunas. We are already being controlled by all of these forces. That we are like puppets to these forces. Gita is teaching us how to we undo that control, how we can move out of it. And some way that child then understood. So this gunas are like that controlling forces of Prakriti. We don't realize we are being controlled because of something called Maya. That is the wheel of illusion. Maya is something which is a very interesting concept, and that a friend of mine in college days, he would use it because he kept aggregating arrears. He said, Sab Maya hai, and he tried to, we can say, run away from the truth. But that is not exactly the interpretation of Maya, it's a misinterpretation. Maya is very much part of our world, part of our existence as well, because it is there in Prakriti. And let us just look at it, and then we enter into gunas, because gunas and Maya is also connected in the Gita. Not everybody quickly understands it, but it's very nicely written. Krishna has beautifully said. Because if you see, he says these three modes are there inside everybody, and yet we don't understand. We don't recognize or we don't relate to it. हमारे अंदर तीनों गुण हैं, रजस तमस और सत्व, पर हमें पता नहीं है. We don't know. त्रिभिर गुणमयैर भावैर ये भी सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परम अव्ययम्. By these three modes, man bewildered goes, and the truth of my divinity he never knows. When one is hoodwinked by the three, my supreme imperishable existence he can never see. Meaning, we don't look at the divine only because we are under the control of these gunas. We realize nothing because of this impact. That is what Krishna is saying. He goes on, Devi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durattaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. This is Maya, the illusion divine, that engulfs every creation of mine. Crossing over beyond the veil can very hard be, but only by surpassing it can one approach me, meaning we can understand the truth. Truth is always concealed. We say all that glitters is not gold. On the surface, we look at so many things. A person feels this is my life's aim, this is my life's ambition. But if it is derived by only the desires, if it is derived by outer aspects, that ambition is reached and still a big question mark remains. Why am I not satisfied after reaching my ambition? A person I know personally, I met that one, he became the head of a big institute. He felt he has got everything. And then after retirement, the big question mark was there is now what? Because entire life is a life which is worked hard, so much sacrifices are done. But now the big question mark remains, what is it that I need to do or what have I been running after? Because somewhere that question never came. Though everybody knows, isn't it? Everybody knows that a time will come when you will have to retire. So are you your profession or are you something more than that? And if you're able to enjoy retirement, that is even greater, isn't it? Completing a full career is completed. But Maya always prevents us from realizing, and this Maya again operates through the gunas. That is why we have to understand the game of the gunas, the play of forces. Do we want to become tennis balls in a court, or do we want to become a player? That is important because life keeps throwing us hardships, difficulties, everything, and we just react. कभी कभी साल निकल जाते हैं जस्ट फॉर रिएक्टिंग ये हुआ फिर उसके बाद ये हुआ उसके बाद ये हुआ यू आर नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट इज हैपनिंग और जस्ट बीइंग मूव्ड अराउंड दैट इज वेयर वी मस्ट अंडरस्टैंड यस a little bit of what Krishna calls vairagya. We need to experience that to see if this is the game. Because if you understand the game, you understand the rules of the game, you can also become the master of the game. And that is why Krishna is teaching Arjuna. Krishna wants Arjuna to rise. And through Arjuna, Krishna wants everybody to rise in consciousness. That is why he is called Jagat Gurum, why he is called Yogeshwara. This yoga can be practiced by all. Tasmad Yogi Bhavarjuna is what he has told Arjuna. Why does Arjuna have to become yogi in the middle of Kurukshetra? So that he can start franchisee Arjuna classes, yoga center. No, it is not that. He has to bring about a great reconciliation between the material life and spiritual life. So, without much delay, let us look at this what Krishna has talked about. Namam dushkritino mudhaha prapadyante naradhamaha mayayapa hritagnyana asuram bhav mashritaha. The foolish and evil do not attain me, for in their bewilderment, the truth they do not see. Disillusioned by Maya, they resort to base means governed by the lower nature of the demonic dreams. Means the Asari Swabhava is there in the same village where our unit is there. There was a man who engaged in a lot of corrupt practices. He had become a local rowdy, so much that he formed unions, he would go to industries, he would harass competitors' industries by taking money from the other industries, then different actions would go on. It was a very dirty path that he had chosen. We can call the path of Anaradhama or Asura only, that direction. Asura means non-harmonious. It is simple. We don't have to imagine Asuras to look like, have two horns or behave differently. It is among us only. Krishna says they are inside of us also if we realize when is the Devi Swabhava, when is the Asuri Swabhava operating. So this person went after his desires. He did not realize that there is some higher Satya, there is some justice, there is truth. And he felt he is doing it for himself, for his family. And he had a very horrible end where he earned so many properties by very illegal means and he was hacked to death in one of his own properties. And afterwards, when the police seized his mobile phone, Even after his departure from this plane, he is receiving credit amounts coming in lakhs. What is the use of that money? What is the use of that money? It is nothing. But this is the Asuri Swabhava driven by desires. Many times people for name, for fame, they do wrong. Academic circles also we are aware of it. People publish papers. I want to improve my H index. I want to improve my score. I want to get this. So let us publish. Let us make a remarkably new hypothesis. But the data is not supporting. Who is going to come and check my data? I will just change the data a bit. And then what happens? Then the papers have to be retracted. And then that fall is not a graceful fall. So this aspect, people don't realize that the higher truth is there. But this is Maya. Maya is preventing us. But does that mean we dismiss the world? No, we have to penetrate the veil because Krishna says, Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Those who seek me. So that means only if you seek Krishna, you can penetrate the veil. Somebody who is seeking Vishnu will, Shiva will not be able to penetrate. Somebody from another dharma will not be able to penetrate. It is not like that. Seek the divine. Krishna is saying, unless you seek the divine, letting go of these lower pulls, you will not be able to penetrate the veil. Again, it's somewhere connected to what we call bhakti or shraddha in the divine. We hold on firmly, we can even see through the veil of Maya. So, establishing that there is Maya is very important because otherwise we go in a rush and life passes very quickly, but we do not realize it. Sometimes people worship God also, and does that mean if I say God's name, my Maya will stop operating? No, I will be still bound by Maya because Maya is a principle of this universe, a principle of functioning. We don't realize sometimes, isn't it? We search for our phones, or sometimes we search for our glasses, they're on our head only. We go searching everywhere. After spending 1 hour, I'm not able to find my glasses, and then somebody comes, hey, it's on your head. Did you not see it? Because that was an illusion. That was a moment where you lost the sight, though it was in front of you. That is Maya. Swami Vivekananda had given a beautiful story. I had heard it as a child, but I can probably share and narrate it in short about Maya, where how Narada, one of the great, we can say, Vibhutis, Narada also was trapped in Maya, and Krishna beautifully made him realize it. Narada was trapped in Maya, and he said, Krishna, he directly told Krishna, Krishna, I'm always thinking of you. So I'm not going to be trapped in Maya. Krishna just laughs. Go get me some water as they were walking. He goes to get water, and as he goes, he sees there are two groups fighting. So immediately he starts, because as a yogi, he wants to make peace in the world. He wants happiness to manifest. So he tries to intervene and he teaches them this is not right. And because he's a third person, he is detached, he is able to see the both sides, what is plus, what is minus. And then he tells, why don't you both take a middle path? You will get a reconciliation. One side will agree on this, another side take one step back. Many times in the world also we have wars taking place, and suddenly we have spiritual gurus going to that war zone directly, and then they give a direction, and immediately it changes. So something like that he does, and he then brings about a great resolution of that conflict. He goes to the king. The king then is also very proud. He says, I was looking for a yogi to direct me, and it is time for me to take the next vanaprastha ashram. Why don't you help for the sake of betterment of the world? So Narada says, yes, this is what Krishna has told, Loka Sangraha. So let me follow. So he starts, Narada becomes the king. Then Narada has a family. Then Narada, after he has children, and the story goes on. And then Narada is now busy growing and taking care of his kingdom. Then there is the war. He is now assigning himself to those war duties. And then he loses. Now there is a Senapati, he comes and says, Narada, the gates have been breached. Please escape. He said, no, no, I can't leave. He said, no, no, if you survive, we will again be able to revive. No problem. Please escape with your wife and two children. So Narada escapes. But there is a drought and so much problem is there that in that journey, his Children are very, very hungry and he has very little food because he's been walking for days and days. Finally, it becomes only very little food that he's now keeping it safe. Suddenly, one person comes and begs, starving. He asks Narada, please give me this food. According to his dharma, he has to give the food. So he gives that. His wife is glaring at him angrily. How did you give away that last morsel? Next moment, her one child breathes the last. Second child breathes the last. Frustrated, she says, I'm leaving you. Enough of this. And Narada is not understanding what did I do wrong? And he calls out to Krishna very loudly. And then Krishna says, what happened to my glass of water? Because Narada had asked, had said, I will not get trapped in Maya. Krishna gave an experience how a great yogi like Narada can get trapped. I think we also can anytime get trapped. Our Maya can be anything. In our career, I want a particular post. In my career, I want to do a particular research only. So for that research to make, I will do anything. I will do. If I lose the boundaries of science, I compromise, then nothing is going to happen. So this Maya is very much a principle which we must be aware of. It operates through the three gunas. So unless we understand the gunas, probably we will not be able to understand what Maya is also. So let us, without much delay, enter into what is the, if anybody has the Gita with you, you can take the Adhyay 14 where Krishna talks about the gunas. We will look at some of the shlokas of this adhyay on the gunas. So there are three gunas, Krishna has said, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva is that guna which is, if you want, it's just we can equate it to quietude and peacefulness. Rajas is that force, is a force, a dynamic force also. So it's like a wild horse, but if you tame the wild horse, you can use that force, isn't it? So there is rajas also. So it's not only what we saw before, kama, esha, krodha, esha. Yes, these are all what we call side effects of rajas, but rajas also has some of its properties. And then there is tamas. So let us see what the three gunas are. The sixth shloka of the 14th adhyay. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakasham anamayam sukha sangena badhnati jnana sangena chanagha. Sattva is the quality that reflects in serenity, illumined by virtue and an immaculate purity. This quality produces in man no disease or affliction. O Arjuna, it expresses through happiness and knowledge is fascination. So ये जो सात्विक गुण है ये एक शांत स्वभाव देता है सब व्यक्तियों को. There are some people, no matter what, they are always quiet. They're always calm. They're all always peaceful. That could be probably because they have learned how to access or operate in the sattvic state. It is that quietude, that peace. Some people are very good at heart. Never you will find anything wrong in such people. From the inside, they only want to do good. This is Sattva's nature. And Sattva's nature allows a person to learn. Because what is the first thing to learn, to know? It is to recognize you don't know, isn't it? If you have Ahankar, you will never say, I don't know. So the one who is having Sattvic Guna will have very little Ahankar, will be ready. One interesting thing that Krishna has talked about, that it produces no disease or affliction. This is something which is being explored. I'm very fortunate to be working with one uh, doctor who is working on, who is a retired forensic medicine expert about this Swabhava being connected with the health. We've heard of it. Now there is a new, we can say, branch of even food and Swabhava, also nutritional psychiatry. And there are concepts of that in the Gita as well. It's very interesting and they're connected with the gunas. So Sattvic Guna is going to make a person free from disease. The person is going to be happy. Have you heard of a very calm, peaceful person having hypertension or anxiety issues or a lot of anger management problems? We talk about self-management. Somebody who is calm and peaceful is always going to be that way. Sometimes moments will come, but by general default, it is very less likely because that is the nature if a person is able to cultivate that inside. So that is one. Next, let us continue. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi.
I would like
So,
to intervene.
yes, ma'am. Sumana, ma'am. Yes, please.
So a sattvic person may not face hypertension or anxieties, but he or she may be afflicted with physical, problems, physical diseases.
Physical problems. How is
How
that,
is that?
madam?
Yes, yes, that is what I was asking.
No, I
Very
didn't
often
understand the
they are,
question. Once more, Sattvic people, you said Sattvic
yes,
nature?
sattvic people. Yes, that is true. You say that they are basically, since they are peaceful by nature and they are in harmony with the universe
Yeah.
as such. But
Yes.
they often face physical afflictions, physical
From
diseases.
you are talking about diseases or what type
Yes,
of
diseases,
affliction?
disease.
But I have not heard such a hypothesis. For example, physical affliction in the sense, or means I think you, I
Uh,
understand your point,
Maybe
but from where?
the person may be suffering from arthritis or any other terminal disease
Okay, Sharirik
or
Vyadhi, you are, but is it because
शारीरिक
of the
व्याधि.
Sattva nature? But
No,
are you
that is
saying
what I
it?
want to. No, no, it
Okay,
is not
okay.
because of the sattva.
In spite
No,
of
no, that is
that
what.
being there,
Yes,
sometimes some
right.
other diseases can come. Okay, we will look
That
at
is
that because
okay.
in yes, we are looking at next part when we see this is like Sharira is also something because mind is something. Sattvic person does not mean mind is only Sattvic. Man, Sharir, Pran, Buddhi, all four have to be worked on. Krishna
Yes,
says that
yes,
you have your first duty is towards your body. So if somebody does not take
yes,
care, then physical ailments. But generally, we can say because when we look at now Rajas, we will understand we are talking about psychosomatic illnesses directly, not about physical lifestyle diseases or any other diseases due to that way anything can happen. There karmic theory is so strong that somebody who is very healthy can suddenly meet with an accident also, no matter how much weight that person is picking up. If it is something else, we are
yes.
trying to see the because of the mind, this person will not have the problem. Mental health
No,
related
no, no,
or
no, no,
mind
right, right.
related affections on the body because they say na man changa to hath mein ganga.
Mhm.
The mind can allow a person to overcome. And again, sattva is not everything. There are limitations also of the three gunas that we will look at because there is a state which is sometimes we say, no, don't be too good to be true. Some people
Yes.
are they are trapped in their own sattva guna that they forget that there are times when I don't have to be a punching bag of the world just because I am nice.
So I
That is
have to exert
also
my limits.
yes, yes, yes. So that is something. So we will look at that, madam. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you,
But
Vinod. Thank
thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Just,
Yes.
just sorry to disturb you. That four things which you have mentioned, that through
Yeah.
body, through mind, through four things one should have the
Man,
sattvic
Sharir,
guण.
Prana, and Buddhi, madam.
Okay, thank you.
These are the means like my Guruji also told whenever you because what happens sometimes we read it, so our mind gets the food, but the body is being ignored. Same way the life force or Chaitanya Shakti is there inside all of us, so we have to take care of that also. Man, Sharir, Pran, and Buddhi also. Again, just mind is good, but I'm not learning, growing. That is so. These are all four aspects that we must look at. But let us continue.
Actually, I had problem with pran, matlab how sattvic the prana should be.
No, in the prana, in the sense, this no, it's prana is a physical aspect of the existence. Sattvic is a state of the force. Now, prana is, if you see, when you are sattvic, your prana sancharan will be better. You will be doing dhyana, as Krishna has told, prana, pano, samo krutva. You are able to sit in quietude so that you means when you are angry, what happens to your breath? Immediately it becomes up and down, isn't it? You see somebody you don't like and how this person has come here. Today's day is horrible. I saw a black cat. After that, I saw this person. That is it. So our prana is getting directly. All right, ma'am. Let's continue. So first one was what we call the sattva. Sattva is that nature inside of a person that allows a person to learn, to grow, to progress, and allows a person to remain peaceful even in difficult moments. Because that is very important to remain peaceful in the face of adversity. My friend became an orphan because her father died in an accident and her mother died of shock listening to the news. That's such a sad thing. So I was just in class six or seven. So that is how where that is why being quiet and calm, learning to control, that is important. But let us go into the chapter. We will see further. And these questions are always the best ones which are being asked because they allow us to also introspect. So thank you. Let us continue. रजो रागात्मकं विद्धि तृष्णा संगम असमुद्भवम तन्निबध्नाति कौन्तेय karma sangena dehinam. Rajas is that which ignites in one a passionate fire, a strong feeling of liking, longing, and desire. O Arjuna, born out of a positions or of a position for things, through attachment to works, it binds the self in all beings. Meaning, inside of all of us, divinity is there, that self is there. But that self is sometimes bound. Bound by what? By these forces. So, what is the Rajasic force? Rajas is the force to do action. It is that force which creates a passion. The fire is required, isn't it? Gita also talks about, Rig Veda begins with Agni. Agnim mire purohitam. That Agni is important. But too much of Agni can burn down an entire, sometimes cities also. We saw that in the most developed country of the world. USA is having such a horrible experience of uncontrolled fires. Well, this Rajas is that passionate fire. It creates, what does it create? Strong liking, strong disliking. It is born out of a position of things. This is my friend, this is my book, this is my pencil. Everything that my factor becomes very strong in Rajas. Without, this is my idea, this is my thought, this is my project, this is my department, this is my concept. Everywhere the person holds on too strongly. It's all right to have choices, but becoming too rigid. Imagine missing out on meeting with a very eminent intellectual just because you don't like the food there. I don't like this food. That liking is or disliking is so strong that the objective of meeting an intellectual is pushed away. So something like that. This happens sometimes. One participant in a Gita workshop had shared where the head of an organization had come, but just because of the choice of food, that person avoided meeting, and then that person is regretting. That regret is not something we should have. And just because I like coffee is fine. I like tea. I like coffee. But I only like this. Otherwise, I cannot. I think sometimes that becomes a little bit too much. We can call it Rajas. Rajas is that strong like king. What about Tamas? Tamas is the third quality. Tasmat Tasmat Vajnanajam Vidhi Mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadalasya Nidrabhi Tannibadhnati Bharata. So Krishna says, but tamas is the quality that creates a delusion and traps all beings by ignorance's illusion. O Arjuna, the mortals are by it confounded. In laxity, laziness, and sleep it is founded. Tamas creates what we call delusion. Delusion means not knowing only. Like for example, I now it is we can say good afternoon. If I say good night, what will everybody say? Something is wrong. It is afternoon. You are in India. Now, Indian Standard Time, if you look at it, it is afternoon. It is a Vastavik Satya. It cannot be like, no, I think it is, I believe it is night. That means I am in delusion. Any question is there? I can request people to ask because it becomes little difficult to read all the questions. So, this tamas, please feel free to interrupt also anytime. There is no problem. So here, tamas creates a delusion and it traps the person. The person does not understand. Imagine if you are in a cage and you don't know you are in a cage. Will you try to escape? If you don't know it's a cage. Youngsters, you give them good Wi-Fi, unlimited supply of food, and tell don't leave this room for 10 days. They'll say, I'll stay here for 365 days. Don't worry, please continue giving me Wi-Fi and food. Somebody may come and tell them, hey, I have got the key to this door. Let's move out. He'll say, are you crazy? This is where I want to be. Because the person does not understand it's a trap. This is tamas. So tamas is the most, if you say the drawback, it is the most dangerous of the gunas if it overcomes us. Tamas means darkness. Upanishads also talk about andaha tamaha pravishanti ye kecha hatmano janaha. That's in the Isha Upanishad. People go and hurt themselves and then enter into darkness. Who is doing that? You cannot blame God, you cannot blame your friend, you cannot blame somebody else but yourself because you are walking into that trap yourself, willingly, consciously. That is what tamas does. person goes on that wrong path. If you want to look at its indications, you can see laziness in that illusion. Means something which is very clear and straightforward, you are not able to understand at all because you are trapped in an illusion. The thought, like I talked about your glasses being on your head and you are searching. If you are spending a lot of time searching for the glasses after having it on the head, first thing you need to do is take a glass of water, sit somewhere else for some 2 minutes, calm down and try to figure out what's going on. Because this is a very simple thing. You can identify, but you are lost in an illusion, so you are not able to see it. So that is tamas. And sometimes people get trapped by laziness, laxity, and sleep. They even get addicted also in that illusion. They start believing that addiction is true. A very famous journalist, he later on became famous. He did not become famous when he was first a journalist because as he was rising up in the career, he got a bad habit of becoming an alcoholic. He kept drinking so much that he missed out all his times, his deadlines, everything. Then he started borrowing money to drink. Then he lost his friends because who will come to a friend who keeps borrowing money to destroy and ruin one's own self? So the friends and family stopped. He started borrowing from the maid also. The maid also stopped coming. And then this person was on the road lying, somebody who was a promising journalist. Then somehow his life turned when he got that realization. The darkness of tamas left him. Then he understood. Then probably sattva buddhi came in, and then he decided, let me at least spend the rest of my life educating people about the bad aspects of drinking. Let them not walk on the same path and suffer. Because that is a sattvic guna which has now operated. So sattva, raja, tamas, these are all three inside of us. How does it function? Yeah, how does it function? It is so simple. It is like they are inside of whom? In the children's batch, when we teach about the gunas, they say, my brother is Rajas, my sister is Rajas, I am Sattva. Every student tries to say that because according to their own assessment, they are good. But then we have to tell them, see, this is not for putting names and labels on people. As this is Rajas, that is Tamas. My own friend's mother and mother and son attended a Gita workshop. Then they started calling each other Rajas and Tamas. Hey, Tamas, get up. Hey, Rajas, keep quiet. This was the dialogue which was going on. Instead, instead of that, we have to recognize all three gunas are inside of us. Monday morning, we have to go to work. First guna rising is tamas, telling us, it's okay, I'll sleep for some more time. I don't want to. Oh no, I have to go to work. Because these are continuously working inside of us and we must be conscious of it. So Krishna says they are inside of us. The next shloka, the 10th one in this adhyay, he tells us, Rajas tamas chabhibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata, rajah sattvam tamaschaiva, tamah sattvam rajas tatha. Oh Arjuna, when the sattva qualities of nature lead overpowered, the rajas and tamas components recede. What happens when the Maharaja comes? Praja immediately moves, isn't it? It is like that. When sattvic nature you have started cultivating, you are cultivating all good qualities inside of you. Then these other qualities automatically get suppressed. They start receding. They don't have that daring to come at all. But Rajas rises when sattva and tamas are suppressed, meaning our force and desire is so strong that you are suppressing your own good nature. Bad nature is getting suppressed, which is tamasic, that's fine for us. But why do we suppress the good nature? A man who is nice, honest, sincere, suddenly in a fit of desire or fit of rage, suddenly starts speaking something. And then that person loses everything, isn't it? Because that moment something came up. So instead of sometimes we get into the habit of blaming individuals. One individual spoke like this. No, this person is the criminal. No, this person is wrong. That is definitely right. But what has happened is psychologically this allowing of these forces. What is the system which is creating this? That has to be eliminated. Because even in the Sant Gyaneshwar has beautifully said, Duritanche timirazavu. Let the badness inside of the bad individual disappear. Don't go killing the bad individual. Destroy the badness inside, then that person will get transformed. But that is also a rajasic reaction which makes people immediately react. So it's always this force, action reaction, it goes on. So Rajas rises when Sattva and Tamas are suppressed. And tamas grows when rajas and sattva are depressed. So when does tamas grow? When the person is depressing these both aspects, which is rajas and sattva. एक आयुर्वेदिक वैद्य थे वो गीता वर्कशॉप में उन्होंने बताया कि मैंने ये तीनों गुण एक ही पेशेंट में देखे. आई वॉज सरप्राइज कि मैडम हाउ, आप जरा बताइए कैसे. सेट फर्स्ट जब ये पेशेंट आया पूरा तमस में था, डिप्रेशन में ही था, नथिंग गुड, नो, नॉट अ सिंगल स्टेटमेंट, नो टॉक, आई वांट टू एंड माय लाइफ, आई वांट टू एंड माय लाइफ, सुसाइडल केस था, नो टॉकिंग ऑल्सो. तो हमें बहुत डर लग रहा था कि दिस पर्सन विल रिएक्ट suddenly, take a step when, so we were always observing this person, always alert, because tamas was there. And this doctor was a new doctor, just joined, first internship. That time it was a very strange experience for that person. And suddenly one day, that same person who is not uttering a word started shouting, fighting, frustrated in such a manner, so much that this person, doctor only felt that I'm leaving this internship because I can't tolerate. So she went to her senior, but her senior told, no, no, wait, can't you see there's a progress? Earlier he was not reacting, now he is reacting. Maybe wrong reactions, but at least there's a good progress. So second stage tha. And then what was beautiful after that was that same person who was angry started having deep intellectual philosophical discussions with the same doctor. How? Because now that Rajas is gone, Sattva has come in, that same individual is now ready for discharge also, because that change has taken place. So it happened as treatment was going on. But if you look in the language of gunas, this was the movement of the gunas from tamas to sattva, to tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva. So these are the gunas which are playing here, and that's how it functions. So what happens when sattva guna is leading? Krishna says, Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivuddham sattva. When the light barges open all the doors of the being, its luminous knowledge brings forth the awakening. Know that whenever there is such an activation, the quality of sattva is leading in domination. When sakshatkar is there, realization is there. Forget realization, sakshatkar. Sometimes they sound so far away. Instead, some creative thought comes to you. You write a beautiful poem, or there's a project you've been working on and having a thought block. Suddenly, in a particular state, you get an inspiration to write. You get a direction. You get a new idea. Well, all these are moments of activation. We can say you are opening towards what? Towards Jyoti, far away from Tama. Instead, you are towards light. Your opening is taking place. Understand that when you are sattvic state, you will experience a good understanding. That is the power of sattva. Then, what about rajas? What happens when rajas is there? Lobha pravritirarambha karmanama shamaspruha rajasyetani jayante vivruddhe bharatarshava. When the rajas quality is in an increasing state, O Arjuna, the following tendencies begin to escalate: greed, a restless desire to initiate action, and the being seeks fruits with an impulsive passion. So, what we can say, greed and lust starts coming in. No, I don't want two pairs of shoes. I want 25 pairs of shoes. Why? Rajas. I want greed to accumulate things. This is there. I want more. I want more. This continuously takes control of a person. This is a drawback of Rajas. So a person becomes greedy, person becomes restless all the time. Understand, if you are becoming restless, maybe Rajas force is working. Don't justify that Rajas force anytime. There is something higher. There is higher, we will see, but Rajas in its own original state is very dangerous. Because what happens when you don't control your force? A student becoming Rajasic will talk something unnecessary to a teacher, and then that will spoil the permanent relation of the student and the teacher. My friend, I remember, he threw a pen inside of the class from one side to the other side because a friend asked. Someone may say it's a harmless action, but that triggered the teacher so much that that person had to drop 1 year because such a big reaction happened, and there was no reason for him to do that, and it escalated slowly. He acted something else, something else. It just went on. Parents came in. Parents also thought we are taking this, that. It just went on. So Rajas, one has to be very careful. अप्रकाशो प्रवृत्तिश्च प्रवृत्तिश्च प्रमादो मोह एव च तस्मादेतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे कुरु नन्दन. Darkness, delusion, and an ignorant negligence, and a futile indulgence in actions of importance. O Arjuna, whenever tamas is on the rise, all these nature's deformities in that being arise. Vikara in Prakriti is tamas nature only. Sometimes you will see this is not required. It's like somebody says, I have a plan of opening a swimming pool in a desert. What is that? It is a waste of energy, waste of resources. This is a tamasic vichara, tamasic thought. So when tamas comes, the person does actions which are of no use. Better not do an action only than do such an action where you are wasting. And like sometimes you call somebody for help, and that person comes to help, and then you say, hey Bhagwan, why did I call this person? If this person had not come, I could have still managed to do something better. Because the person, instead of solving the problem, is creating new problems. So that is tamasic force. That is not required. Why it is important? Knowing these gunas, because just as these gunas flow in us, they flow in individuals also. So understanding them will allow us how to deal. This management aspect is very important. How do we deal with these? But then each of these gunas have a limitation. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajah karmani bharata jnanamavritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayat yuta. By happiness, nature sattva is bound, and by desires and actions, rajas is ensnared found. O Arjuna, but tamas is attached to negligence, and its cloak of ignorance cages the intelligence. So this all three, we have been told about three gunas, and now Krishna tells us that all three gunas have limitation. Sattva guna also is limited by its goody-goody nature. There's a nice tale in Panchatantra. A snake felt very bad because children were running away from the snake and afraid of the snake. So the snake goes to a sadhu, asking, Sadhu, tell me how I can improve. See, these children, I don't want them to run away. I don't want to bite them. He said, stop always going. You are always going everywhere, biting around all the time. Show you are also gentle. So the snake does extra effort to move around, show it is gentle. Then now these children know the snake does not bite. They start treating the snake like a lizard only. They play with the snake, they hit the snake, they injure the snake. Finally, when the snake gets injured, he says, now I'm going to go and bite that sadhu only. What nonsense this sadhu has taught me. So the snake goes to the sadhu and says, look, you told me to be good. Now what has happened because of being good? See, the sadhu says, I did not tell you not to raise your hood. No? I told you not to bite. But that does not mean you cannot hiss and raise your hood to show caution. Meaning, so the limitation of sattva guna is there just as there is a limitation of rajas. What is the rajas? It is by desires and action. No? My individual desires. I will dream about my desires, but my dreams are going to be this small, isn't it? Depending on my desires, my dream is going to be. For a alcoholic, what is the greatest desire? Swargalok is unlimited supply of alcohol because that is where the mind can go. So if we are limited by our desires, we will never realize higher things. So Rajas is bound by its own desire, by its own actions, seeking returns all the time. We keep trying, we keep listening to people giving advice, how to get good returns, how to get good returns. But many times this advice does not manifest, no? We do actions with just certain aspects, and in world is so different. Everything changes. So this Rajas is having a limitation, and Tamas is always having. Because the greatest limitation is in Tamas compared to the three gunas. But then why is Tamas required? Well, tamas is that nature which will, if you can go quietly and filter it out properly, it will tell you when to take rest, when to not act, when to go into a deeper consciousness. What we can say, the Shanti of Shiva descends onto earth as tamas. So we have to slowly come out of that, but try to reach that quietude. So that is tamas again. So Krishna goes on, he says, Karmanaha sukrutasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajastu rajastu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasa phalam. So fruits also, it's like after introducing the three gunas, the Gita changes permanently. if you study the Gita. Every action is then connected with the three gunas. Your work becomes either sattvic work, rajasic work, tamasic work. Your direction becomes sattvic direction, tamasic. Buddhi becomes sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Dana also becomes sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Meaning the dana is what? A good work done, no? So it's actually a punya karma. It is said to be yajna, dana, tapa, karma. All of these are important aspects. But the dana also can get ruined if it is a tamasic dana. Yajna can become ruined because it is tamasic. So these three gunas are so important because they, once we understand them, they have a permanent bearing in our life. Krishna says when works are performed in sattva's light, the fruits are pure because the mode of action is right. You have done an action in the right manner, it will give you the right fruit. Plant an apple tree. You grow an apple tree, you will get apples only, isn't it? You cannot get oranges or something else there. So it is like that. You do your actions with good intention. Do not worry about anything else. When the fruits come, they will be with Sattva's light. The fruits, okay, and works done in Rajas state bring only pain. Because Rajasic actions, I did so much. Many parents, ये मेरे बच्चे नहीं है, मेरे FD हैं, मेरे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं रिटर्न के लिए. But children don't behave according to expectation. Then पूरा जिंदगी is gone. ये क्या है, क्या हो गया, what is this, all of it. Because why are you looking at expectations? Do your duty. Karmanyevadika asti. Krishna says mam phaleshu kadachana. You are not going to be bound. That is something very important. So but rajas, because it creates expectations, and the problem of human beings is our expectations never get fulfilled. The moment one expectation gets fulfilled, another desire comes with greater expectations. You can say all human beings have these great expectations every time, one after the other. They keep coming, and then they bring pain. Means Sanatana Dharma tells us, or our Gita or our principles teach us that there's no need to go running after happiness. Happiness will come to that person who is sthita in that place, who is having what we call sthita prajna, the person who is calm, who is peaceful. Ananda will just come around, but that is not understood. So if you see urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaganya guna vruttistha adho gachanti tamasaha. The embodied ones in sattva upwards ascend. Those in rajas remain in the middle but do not descend, while the beings of tamas inertial negligence in the soul's journey only sink in further decadence. So we saw this rajas, we saw tamas, we saw sattva. But now we know that impulsive, angry reactions are there, which are bad. But we saw limitations of all three gunas in the Mahabharata. If we look at Krishna, what is his guna? Anybody? Is he sattva? Is he rajas? Or is he tamas? Yeah, a nice question has been asked by Sunita ji, isn't it? But I would request if it can be asked completely. But yeah, yes, Rose ji wants to say something. Yes, ma'am.
No, sir,
Is
if
it?
you allow, if you need some assistance, I can read out the question.
Right, madam. Then you can read out the question if you wish to. Most definitely.
Yes, yes. So Sunita ma'am is asking, but isn't a restricted amount of rajas essential for the world to progress?
Ah.
And wasn't exhorting Arjuna towards his duty was a part of creating rajas in him?
Okay, that's a nice question. So now this Rajas force, that is like I told you, it is like a wild horse, isn't it? If you can tame the wild horse, you can ride that wild horse. But if you don't tame it, again, Krishna, what we fully agree with what Sunita ji has said, because he says, Uttishta Bharata, rise Arjuna. But then who decides how much Rajas is right? How much of it is exactly right? Sunita ji, how do we say that? What is the line then? Because Rajas is good then, if we say that and we start following. Where is the limit? Where do we draw the line? Yes?
If we keep a check over the Rajas Guna, then I think that would only lead to the progress of the world.
Okay, so we'll have to
Only thing
keep a
that,
check
yes, what I believe is that, sir, without Rajas, it is would be difficult for the world to progress,
to
to
exist.
achieve.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
that's why they
then,
have three gunas, no?
unless
In
and
Ayurveda, we
unless
have
and
kapha,
until,
vata, pitta. You take out kapha of an individual, the person's homeostasis is broken, the person will cease to exist. Means you need a balance of all three, kapha, vata, and pitta. So like that. But ma'am, one question is, what do you think about Krishna? I was asking the question. Was he sattvic? Was he rajasic or was he tamasic? Yes,
I
ma'am?
think he was a perfect. I think he was a perfect balance of all these three gunas.
Okay,
In my
so he
humble
was,
study of Krishna, I think Krishna too had all these three gunas. It was not that he was devoid of tamas or rajas, and he was the complete incarnation of sattva. Because on and off, we find many areas where he tricks the Kauravas, and
but, hmm. So was it
he
tamasic then? Was it tamasic when he was doing such actions?
no, the end aim was always sattvic, though the way
So
he
he's
did
not fully tamasic. He was doing
he
something which
adopts the
looked,
measures of tamasic and rajasic, but the end aim and objective is always sattvic. So
okay. So
what I think is everybody else may be having all these three gunas, and at the ultimately where it takes us to, and what the end objective of all
huh,
this is, what we decide, or what that decides the quality of the
Ji.
person.
So yes, I think as a child we must have watched TV when we would get very irritated when the remote is taken out of our hand, no? So if the remote is not in our hand and some outer factor is triggering the gunas inside of us, then it is a problem. But Krishna is, I think Dr. Sujata ji has beautifully written, he was Gunatita, meaning one stage which has not yet been introduced by Krishna in the Gita, but it's like a state which is higher than all these three gunas. So we talked about three gunas being operating systems. If we see like modern day, we have Windows, we have a Mac, and we also have the Linux. So all three are having these different functionalities, but all three are required. All three are doing their role. But now there is something beyond. What is this guna tita? That is an important aspect. And the moment Krishna tells Arjuna about guna tita state, he also becomes very much curious. He says, Krishna, tell me, what is this Gunatita? So, if we are talking in the terminology of these apps, I think anybody has heard of this root access in the operating systems, especially these mobile phones, no? They do routing who are experienced developers. They modify the system. Anybody has heard of that? Routing it, gaining root access, or modifying the OS. Yes? All right, so maybe somebody from the software line would be well versed with this. Okay, Nehaji has written yes. So what happens there in their terminology? They say you get super user privileges. Only so that is why hackers they understand that this is the system, this is having more capacity than the whatever capacity has been allotted. So let us work on it and take maximum output. That is something in our operating systems also, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. If we can go to a state which is said to be Gunatita, that is what Krishna is asking. So he says, become Gunatita. The question comes, what is it then? Let us look at the shloka. Krishna says, Gunanet, Gunan, Gunaneta Natitya Trindehi Deha Samudbhavan जन्म मृत्यु जरा दुःखैर विमुक्तो मृतमश्नुते. So Krishna says rising upwards, the embodied soul is elevated. When the nature's triple bond from the nature's triple bondage, it is liberated. From birth, death, old age, and disease, the sufferings mortal, the soul is freed and attains to the immortal. Meaning that being who is learning to transcend these three gunas, it's not going to happen just like that, isn't it? It is going to happen by one's sadhana, slowly, by efforts. Somebody who's taking all of these efforts to move ahead and transcend all these three gunas, that person becomes what we call liberated. Liberated from what? Well, Krishna has actually told the biggest bondages. The person becomes free. Birth, death, old age, disease, sufferings. Then somebody will immediately ask, but what about Krishna? Krishna then left his deha. What is this immortality? For somebody who is having a higher understanding, immortality is in context of a consciousness which is not going to be destroyed. And that consciousness is a continuum, isn't it? We as human beings, as a part of a civilization, we are also a part of a continuum where we are growing ahead. So many upheavals took place, so many transformations took place, but there is a direction, and this person becomes connected with that. What we call a higher gunatita is like a super conscious state where you are now connected with that Chetana, that consciousness which will allow you to wade in this world freely. Free in the sense, free from any of these difficulties. Normally, a person gets disturbed, isn't it? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. These are four truths. Nobody likes to accept them. No? I will not say I am going to die. I am never going to die according to me. But that's a truth, no? And I can't say when. I say 10 days later also, there's no guarantee. It can be 10 days later, it can be 10 years later. It is not in my hand, but I have to accept it as a truth. Like that, same way. Jara, old age. I can color my hair, I can try to show I don't have white hair. But when I am coloring also, I will know I am doing it because growth is taking place. Old age is a part of life. Then what? What is that liberation? Liberation is not is understanding that old age is also a part of a life growth which is taking place. Then you will start seeing the beauty in wrinkles also instead of seeing, oh no, wrinkles are so bad, or people get all the wrong thoughts about it. So this aspect of freedom is what Krishna is talking about. But Arjuna does not understand it at all. So he asks the question. Very nice question. Arjuna is always practical in his approach. So he asks, Kailingais trin gunanetatin gunanetan tito bhavati prabho kimacharah katham chaitans trin gunan ati vartate. Arjuna asks, what are the signs? What are the lakshana? Everywhere Arjuna is looking at, give me outer signs. Tell me, if you are talking about Sita Pragnya, what is the bhasha of a Sita Pragnya? How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he talk? I need to see that. How can I identify? So he says, how do I identify somebody is Gunatit? Will he be levitating? Or he'll walk like every other normal people? He says, what are the signs that one can see? And what are the actions of that soul free? The triple natures, how does one ascend? Oh Lord, answer to these questions, please extend. So this is what Krishna is being asked. Tell me what is this state which is beyond Rajas, which is beyond Tamas, beyond Sattva, which is said to be a super conscious state of Gunatita. What is it? Krishna replies, he says, Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava na tveshti sampravruttani na nivruttani kankshati. Krishna said, Oh Arjuna, Sattva's enlightened mode of action, Rajas's work impulsion, and Tamas's delusion. He who neither detests nor shirks away, nor desires these vehicles of nature in any way, meaning you are not having a hatred to any of these. You are not desiring only this or leaving it. Then you are going to become free, is what Krishna is saying. The work impulsion, tamas illusion, and sattva's enlightened mode, if you are able to see with oneness. This samatva bhava is something which is very important. And next comes that nice shloka which I think Prachi madam had quoted. Udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate guna vartanta ityeva yovatishthati nengate. He who remains firm and witnesses quietly, seated, seated well above the triple modes, nonchalantly, knowing all occurrences to be in sync with nature's way, detached and immobile, he observes the forces play. So Krishna says here, he who remains firm and witnesses quietly, becoming what we call sakshi. Understand, when you understand this, Krishna says, if you become the observer, you are able to watch the forces where? Outside And also inside, if you are able to observe Krishna is saying, and you are saying in a higher state of consciousness, understanding all this is part of Prakriti, you're not getting disturbed, then then that person is able to reach that state of Gunatit, is able to see it. Best example I can think of, a simpler one, light-hearted one, is in my college. My friend, he got scoldings from his professor. He got very irritated. And actually, that professor was in a scolding spree. One after the other, he kept scolding. But my friend became very sad and depressed. Then the other person who probably we can call him a symbol of Gunatit, though he's not, but he could observe. He said, see, while the professor was coming out of the room, he hit his head on the wall. So he was irritated. So now Raja's force is coming, this force is coming to you, you don't take it. And really, this person who was depressed, what did I do wrong? Why did I get this scolding? He suddenly started laughing because he understood he's not done anything. This is a game, which is a no force of nature, which is at play, and suddenly he became quiet. Well, this is what we can look at it in a simpler way. But if you see a very practical example, which I think can relate to, is my one example from the experience of my Guruji long before I had joined him in the factory. He is in charge of, means Guruji is very practical in his approach. Means his sadhana should be done quietly on the inside, but your work should be your sadhana. Let your action that you are doing show everything, whatever. You're not doing it to show anybody, but people will understand, but you walk the talk. That was something that was his always. Means yoga, karma, su, kaushalam, you would say perfection in work is spirituality. You bring perfection in your works. So what happened was one day in his factory, which is basically employing women from the, we can say, lower income category, they join the factory and they are taught how to, clean the herbs, how to manufacture all of it to make the medicines. Now in Pondicherry, despite it being a very pious place and all of it, there's also one disadvantage of alcohol being very cheap. So a lot of people drink, and mostly it is the husbands who get drunk, and then they create problems. In especially the lower income families, husbands are just drinking, and the women are working and doing their work. They take money from them. This was all happening, and there was one particular person whose husband was abusive. Came to the ears of Damleji, but since it is not happening directly in the factory, he could not intervene. But many times he had told her what has to be done and all. So one day, what happened was that drunkard came at the entrance of the factory and started calling her out. Now, that is a sacred place of working, and this person has come to this gate. This was the limit was crossed, and Amleji being a wrestler, everybody was afraid what is next going to happen. So he did not tolerate it that it has now come to the door. So he went, and Amleji said, I went with a full intention of giving him prasada. In Indore, giving prasad does not mean giving prasad in the temple, it means giving a lesson. He walked with full force. If we want to talk in terms of Gita, it looked from the outside like it was Raja's force because the walk, the movement, everything was displaying anger or what we call that Raudra Bhava. It is visible. And he went there to that man and he raised his hand, and it was he also told later on, because afterwards when I asked, he said, I had raised it to give him a hit on this head or back somewhere. But in the last minute, he said, I don't know what happened. I saw that person, and instead of giving it on the back, he said he just touched his head softly and he shook his head like this and just said, without communicating in that language also, this is not right. And the person who received that simple non-verbal gesture was so shaken that he staggered and walked away. And next day, the wife comes and says that I was very worried, but then I do not know what happened. But when I later on, he came and told me that I will never ever come. He folded his hands and said, the person who is there is a very nice person. I will never ever come to trouble you again in your workplace. Now, what has happened here? It was not, if it was just Rajas, if it was controlling an individual, it could have created anything. But since we can say Damleji was in control, he could understand what was required, what force is required, when sattva is required, what is required, when to act, when to react, when to not. These are very important. Most of the meetings, you see, they go astray because of agendas are good, but forces are wrong. Rajas is being treated with Rajas. One person says something Rajasic, another person says Rajasic. Higher truth is lost. Agenda, meeting, purpose is gone. Instead, one person decides, ki, "theek hai, all right, let him speak. It may be senseless. All right, let that person." Because when somebody is angry, if you try to explain, Nothing will be understood. So this aspect of three gunas and crossing the three gunas is something which Krishna says, if we are able to experience that, then we become transformed. So now if we see this three gunas, I think somebody, Sunita ji is having some more questions.
Yes,
All
yes,
right. Yes,
Speaker
Rosely, if
Shiv.
you can read them out. Yes, please.
Yeah. So, sir, she's asking, she personally feels that the most difficult part of life is not necessarily death, but being aware that it is going to happen and still walk towards it gracefully. So, can you throw
Hmm.
light on this situation and how can one embrace this ultimate truth with sort of peace and with practical ideas rather than just philosophical advices?
No, but what is the difference between why is philosophical advice not practical or why is philosophy not practical? One thing is philosophy is very practical. Means I had this experience of two of my very close friends. One was one of the sister and another friend got diagnosed with third stage cancer. And one the doctor only told ki you are having 4 months to live. And she was like a younger sister to me. And when she just shared the how can I not understand, and I myself was so shocked I didn't know what to tell her. But now if we ourselves get emotional and we get carried, basically this is a news which has brought a reaction, isn't it? And if we react just on the level of emotions, can you ever advise anybody? No. You will have to take one step back. You'll have to take a step back. So she had asked me, what about my dreams? I said, just because the report has come, I said, does not mean it is a full stop. You can try, you can aspire. Nobody is going to stop you from dreaming. And she decided, she went through her entire cycle slowly. It was like a very challenging moment. But just if you recognize that it is going to come and look at it with a great sorrow, if you look at it with, means now, like I told about myself, I know it is going to come, but I cannot choose when it is going to come. I cannot choose how it is going to come also, the last moment. But I can choose how I can live, isn't it? Definitely, we all have that choice in our hands. And if we can live it cheerfully, it does not matter when you realize that the biggest yaksha prashna is we think about death is coming to somebody else and not to us. So that is why when we see somebody else's, it occurs, it makes us more sorrowful on the inside because we somehow relate it to ourselves. Many times we think we are crying for somebody else, but many times we are crying for ourselves only. And this was a statement when my teacher told me first, that was in when I was 21, 14 years back. That time, when my guru told me that, I thought, no, I don't know if it's correct or not. I don't fully understand to it. And then I got the news of a friend's mother's departure. So when I went to him, I got a practical experience of how this person went on. He said, no, she left too early. She did this, she did that only. She should have done this. All that was understandable. And finally asked the question, will she haunt me? I was like, hey, where is your love now? Where is your love? Where this is your fear, your insecurity, your mental state of mind, means we can call it tamasic buddhi, no? This kind of buddhi coming at this time instead of anything. Mother who has loved you all your life, you think she is going to trouble you because you did this or you did not do this. What is this? Is tamasic buddhi. So here mind has to be worked on. Now, means uh, like I told you, the same friend I told you, she asked me, "What about my dreams? What about my dreams of getting, we can say, married? What about my dreams of becoming a mother?" This was a very important question for her in her life. What happens to this? Because I am seeing practically in the report. At that time, all what we can do is we can try to, physical body has got an ailment, but has the mind got an ailment? No, mind you can try to make your mind strong. And keeping your mental strong, you are having a great chance of moving ahead. Because her journey, I watched it over a period of a year. First, the doctor had diagnosed, a junior doctor came and told her, maybe if you respond to this particular medication, there is some chance. So, sudden hope she found. She went to the senior doctor. Senior doctor got Rajasick. Now you will believe junior doctor, and you don't respect my condition. You are going to believe the junior doctor and not me. Therefore, this person should also become Gunatit and see that this child is dreaming and hope is there. No, at least give some hope. Now, after some months, no hope. She says, I better die. I better have no, I'm spending my parents' money. These are all her negative thoughts. Sometimes you see the mind only is your enemy. Gita also tells us, Atmaiva Bandhuratmana, Atmaiva Ripuratmana. When is the mind enemy? When the mind tells you there is no divinity, there is no hope. All these times we should do what we should do with the enemy. Destroy your enemy or throw that enemy out of your life. These negative thoughts, there is no need for any of these negative thoughts. So 4 months, 5 months, then she discovers that her particular case is responding to a particular treatment. And the one who had 4 months from the same hospital, which the doctor told you're not having any hope, has got a certificate. She has got cancer free. She got a scholarship to go to Oxford. She's gone there in her entire life. Now she's going to get married also. So many changes. And it's not just one case, two, three cases are there. The divine, the divine decides. The divine decides. I just because I don't have a disease does not mean I will have a full long life. I think Sunitaji's question is right. Yes, but I think if you are very much concerned on the level of the mind, you will have to learn to silence the mind because I've seen so many people who are smiling in spite of difficult illnesses. They say I think there was this late Jagjit Singh's ghazal. तुम इतना क्यों मुस्कुरा रहे हो क्या गम है जिसको छुपा रहे हो? Why do you want to search what is the gum which is being hidden? Again, no comments on the great soul's ghazal, but instead of attaching to that, we will have to. How many days? I may have 4 days in life remaining from today. Can I change it? I don't know, but I can surely choose how those 4 days are going to be. I can definitely, if I have the right state of mind. And who knows, 4 days may become 44 days also. 4 days may become 400 days also. It is important to live. No? Sometimes people live for several years, not living for even few days because they are trapped in Maya. Become free. Become free and experience. That is something which the crux of the Gita is actually. Arjuna is entering into not just Dharma Kshetra, it's also Mrityu Kshetra. Death is standing in all directions. Death is going to happen, not to him only, to so many of his near and dear ones. Yet, that is why he becomes depressed. But then he learns how to move ahead. So I think when is the break time, madam?
Yes, sir. So we should ideally start around 3:45.
Okay.
If you're okay with
Yeah,
it, like
yeah, I'm
maybe
fine. I'm fine. Yes, yes, we could.
we,
It is up to, it's
we
absolutely
can
fine.
pause for a 15-minute
15
break
minutes.
and then we can
Right, madam.
start at
Yes, we will
four
continue.
o'clock.
Yes, ji. Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All participants, we will be taking a very short break for 15 minutes and then we'll start the session again at 4 o'clock.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shruti, I think we can start the
Namaste.
session now if
All right,
you're
madam. Thank you.
okay with it, if you're
Thank you.
comfortable.
Yeah, I am comfortable. Fine, madam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we had just seen about the three gunas. What are the three gunas, sattva, raja, and tamas, how they are operating, what are the implications, and we touched on to what is the state which is said to be gunatita, or a state that is said to be transcending the three gunas. So we'll probably look at a little bit more on that. What is the gunatita state? Some very interesting questions were also asked on the practicality of all of this. So that is why I think I thought we'll just dwell a little bit more on the practicality of the gunatita state and then probably go ahead. So here we continue. Krishna has talked about in the 14th adhyaya only about this state of gunatita. He says, Sama dukkha sukha swastaha samaloshtasma kanchanaha tulya priya priyo dhiras tulya nindatma sanstutihi. Who dwells in the self, poised and still. In both joy and sorrow, he remains tranquil. Stone, mud, or gold, all as one he treats. Praise or blame, friends and foes alike he greets. This is again an interesting verse. Somebody who dwells in the self, meaning the person who is calm, who is contented, somebody who is in that what we call Atma Trupti. in the state of that person is balanced. Balanced at what time? When there is joy, when there is sorrow also. This balance is very important, isn't it? Many times I think we have seen athletes working hard for the Olympics, several years of sacrifice, and in the last moment they start celebrating before crossing. They start celebrating before even crossing the finish line. And in that celebration, they lose out on everything because the excitement, they lost that balance, their action, their mission. So that is why the yogi who is in the Gunatit state is remaining poised in both happy moments as well as sad moments. I got a very nice experience in a class because my teacher would always say, Damliji always says, don't rejoice. Now, why should we not rejoice is the question everybody feels. Rejoicing is good. But I got that experience. Electricity went. And they go, oh no, electricity has gone. I'm sad. Next moment, I've not finished exclaiming in sorrow. Electricity has returned. So again, I started jumping. Yes, electricity has come. And before another minute, it has again gone. So what has happened? Alternating current has moved in its own manner. The current has fluctuated. But along with that fluctuation, I have also fluctuated, isn't it? Extremes of emotions, extremes of. Yes, Prakash, wants to ask something? No. All right. So this, what we call fluctuations, we need to learn to find a balance. Children in a hurry eat their favorite dish, and then they feel very sad because the plate looks empty. Instead, if the person knows to enjoy it, the person will eat every moment, cherish that moment completely. That is what a state of Gunatit allows us to become because we are conscious. We are conscious and so we are balanced. Next is an important aspect stone, mud, or gold. All as one he treats. Praise or blame, friends and foes alike. The greatest aspect of praise and blame, we know it because today I'm being praised, tomorrow I'm going to get criticized. If I get excited with praise and I take it onto my head, I'm likely to do something stupid. Or I'm likely to get depressed because I'm getting criticized. Friends and foes also we can understand very well because sometimes, your best friend suddenly ceases to remain your friend, and that is a very big pain. But this is interesting. But the question of material aspects, stone, mud, or gold, all as one, that person treats. That person is said to have progressed. Can we treat stone, gold, and mud as one? Is my question. Anybody can treat it as one? Is there anyone? Or if yes, how do we treat it? And if you are willing, I'll send you my address. I'll replace all the gold that you send with stone. What is the treating of oneness, stone and gold, stone, clay, and gold? Anybody? How do we treat it with oneness? What is the meaning of it? Treating as oneness. Anybody? Yes? Is it possible? You can share your insight. Anyone? You can agree, you can disagree. Yes, please feel free to unmute. Anybody? I will not be officially sending any address to exchange gold for stone or anything of that sort, so that need not be a worry. Yes, anyone? Yes, ma'am. Yes, Rosie, you were saying something?
Yeah. Oh, I think someone has also written something.
Okay. Yes, please. Please do read,
Dr.
madam.
Sujata is saying that uh neither gold over I'm also not
Gloat. Okay.
yeah
Yeah.
neither gloat over the gold or feel particularly bad about the lump of the mud. I think so that the
Uh,
one doesn't feel bad for the other is I think what she's probably
okay. Ji. So not gloating over the
Mhm.
gold or feeling particularly bad of lump of mud, meaning not getting attached. Looking at what we call having a equanimity towards all. It is not saying make it exchange rate. It's a wrong interpretation of it. Means if you are in a desert, what would you prefer? Even half a glass of water will be sufficient, isn't it, in a desert? Or you would say, I want 10 kilos of gold. If you have not had water for an entire day or 2 days and you're starving and thirsty, if somebody says, I'll not give you water, but I'll give you 10 kilos of gold, what would you do? There, its value is nothing, isn't it? It's as useless as the sand, because at that place, its value is nothing. That time you must recognize this is important. But if you're too attached, you're too greedy, what will happen? You will go on the wrong path. You will choose something else. So where gold has its value, it's its value. But can you use gold in place of stone? Stone is required. It is so strong and hard. Gold is so easily malleable. So where the rule use of stone is required, you can't use a gold for. If you have a lot of gold, can you make a bridge of gold? No. And what will it stand? It does not have that tensile strength. It does not have anything to do its work. So there you need the stone only. Same way, mud is something which we can say you can make a pot. You cannot make a pot so easily with, you cannot make it with a gold or even stone. You need mud. You need mud. Means each has its place, each has its value. If you are able to remain balanced, you will never be corrupted. Corrupted by desire, corrupted by power, corrupted by any other forces, because you are able to see. Somebody comes and says, you give me this in return. I will do this work for you. No, if you are balanced, if you are balanced, then you are going to be able to be the progressor or move ahead. I know of one professor who was pressured to pass a particular student. She got pressures from the director, from different people. She got phone calls. Somehow everybody knew that student is going to fail. So they already had told. But she did not. She said, this is not my duty. I will not. And you will not believe an inquiry was conducted on the teacher, not on the student, for passing. They tried to disprove the exam itself that this was in a medical college. They tried to, in a reputed one, I'm not taking the name, but they tried to say that the exam was only not conducted according to proper standards. And in that inquiry, some of her colleagues from other medical colleges came to interview and find out in that committee whether she has done anything wrong. But she stood her ground. She was very firm. She wrote down what she had to in the paper and she responded to all the questions, and her 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 assessment was declared correct. All the entire system had to accept it. How is that possible? Another income tax officer, she unearthed a very big scam. She's a mother of my friend. The same one I talked about laughingly, that she would call her son Thomas and the other Rajas. So she had unearthed a big scam because she did not want to sign. Said, I will not sign until I see this. And she was able to keep herself out of those pressures. And she says that she was guided. She felt guided by a sudden calm inside. Normally, such a pressure, she said, I never thought I will face this pressure. But a calmness entered into her, and that calmness allowed her to come out of this pressure and do her right action. So this is a state which we all must aspire to, not one moment, two moment. Krishna is saying remain in that so you will enjoy like how Krishna did. Krishna enjoyed the entire aspect. You can see him smiling in the battlefield when his hero says, I'm going to give up, I'm going to run away. Because he's understanding, see, Arjuna has fallen prey to tamas. Let's see. You have to just make Rajas lightly alter, slowly put Rajas a bit, because immediate first reaction is Katham. He asks with anger. Katham Bhishwam Maham Sankhe Dronam Cha Madhusudana. He says, how Krishna? How can I fight these people? These are my godly teachers. That's what is Rajas, no? But Rajas better than Tamas. And then slowly he teaches him what is the higher state of dhyana, what is sattva, and then now he's teaching about gunatita. So this is a state which we must all try. We don't need to describe it, how is it exactly, we don't need to understand, but we can understand that we can be open to the divine, not getting carried away. Remote should be in our hand. It's very bad, isn't it? When we were young, when our siblings would change the channel that we're watching. What about our life if somebody is holding the remote of our life in their hands? Are we so vulnerable that we can never come out of it? I don't think so. So this is what we must do. Friends and foes, everybody has oneness. That with oneness, if you can see, that is said to be a great progressor. And the last part of this sloka, this adhyaya, talks about a simple way to reach the Gunatita state. Because these are all practical aspects, but practical aspects are not so practical many times because you tell become calm. When the situation comes, nobody is able to remain calm. So how does one do that? The last shloka very beautifully says, Krishna says, Mam cha yovya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That person is worthy of receiving the Brahma Vidya and reaching the highest state very easily. Who is that person? That person who has learned to love the divine. He who loves and yearns for me with his heart. He whose devotion for me has no end or start. Nature's triple modes he can easily breach, and supreme state he is said to be ready to reach. So, if you can offer your what we can say purified love without expectations to whom? To the divine, you will watch what transformations take place. If you've seen, there's a beautiful bhajan which Anup Jalota had sung, Prabal Prem ke pale padkar, Prabhu ko niyam badalte dekha. It is out of love that there is a one emotion in human beings which, when transcended, when directed towards the divine, it can bring about what we call complete transformation and as well as a rapid evolution. So the easiest way, if we want to look at in going to that Gunatita state, it is this only, is what Krishna has said. That is why all roads, they say, all roads lead to Rome. Every shloka in the Gita indirectly talks about how bhakti has to be cultivated because once that is there, Shraddha is going to become stronger, and when it does, nothing can be changed. The person becomes unshakable. Now we're looking at one more aspect of modes of learning. One is there are three which have been told in the broad topics. There is one is Shravana, the other is Manana, and the third is Nididhyasana. If you look at Shravana in the sense it means listening. Listening is something which is very, very important. It is an art. Many times we go, we listen, but our mind is elsewhere. We listen to some of the best talks, and yet those talks don't make any difference inside of us because our mind is elsewhere. And if we cannot listen, we cannot learn. First aspect of learning is listening, because to become a good listener, the one who listens to all properly is going to be heard by all ultimately, because that person will receive the wisdom, will receive the knowledge. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen because when you listen, you are hearing what you hear, it is being fed inside, isn't it? It goes inside, it remains there. And if you listen properly, you can start learning the occult language of the universe as well. So, this listening is number one aspect. And so, somebody who starts listening properly, who becomes a good listener, later on becomes what they call Sarvashraut, someone who is heard of by all, because this person learns how to move ahead. So this is number one.
So, can I speak once?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, ma'am. Please do.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, could you please throw some light on the occult language of the universe?
Right. Yes. So, madam, if you see, when we listen, just if you say listening also, we can hear sounds. But when we become calm, say go to a seashore, and you suddenly become quiet, no? Your listening will be most active when your mind is also silent, isn't it?
Yes.
And that time, people have heard different, nada also they are able to hear. Means Rishis actually reach the highest state through listening only.
Pardon, sir?
The rishis of the
Yes.
Vedas, the rishis of the Upanishads, no?
Yes.
They heard these sounds. They heard the sounds came to them in the deep silence. And these sounds had big meaning which was understood later on.
Okay, then that requires a high level of concentration.
Now, more than concentration, it requires a silencing of the mind.
Silencing of the mind. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, Ji. We have to silence the mind because what happens is when somebody is speaking, immediately we start trying to analyze. We try to, so this person is saying this. Many times, if you see certain psychiatric cases, people have problem because the person is what we call, projecting everything, whatever this person is having in the head only outside. No listening is happening, real listening. because continuously I have read this, so this means this means that. Instead, if you become very calm, you will suddenly, simple words may give it big meaning also. There was this illiterate poetess in Maharashtra. Her name was Bahinabai Chaudhary. She would she say she learned in her village. She would speak a language which not everybody knew. It was a local dialect, but and she wanted to learn, she wanted to grow, but she didn't have the opportunity. But she listened to her guru, and when she would work in the fields, there she said Bhagavad Gita came in from the soil. Panduranga brought me Bhagavad Gita, she says. And another beautiful, because she became known posthumously. When she was there, nobody knew her. But her sadhana, her journey was going on. She would say the wind in the rustling of the leaves is talking about the coming and going of the divine to her. So that was like so beautiful. And nobody knew about her until her son, who had heard her talk, wrote down her words. And afterwards, when a great educationist of Maharashtra, Acharya Atre, he saw it, he had goosebumps. He said, "This is like gold, it must be published." And then Bahina Bainche Gane, that's beautiful book got published. And then now people are doing a PhD about her, and I came to know about it. There was, I think, a university, I think it's Yashwantrao Chauhan University, I'm not fully sure. But they're doing PhD on the works of somebody who had never got a chance to read or write. But she learned because she was a good she listened to the guru, she listened to the language of the universe. If we are alert when our emotions are aside, we are not having rajasic impulses, we are not having, because rajasic impulses will do what? They will push their idea only, no? And that's a possessive idea. It's an idea of this is correct, this does not make sense, means it does not exist. That is what Rajas teaches. But if we are going to go into a higher state and we listen in that, we'll probably receive. Yes,
Thank you
Sri?
so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So let us continue. So this was, and anybody, please feel free anytime to interrupt as well. So that is why Shruti was given so much importance. Shravan was said to be important. Vedic scriptures were taught and they were repeated, and then the Guru would tell and the students would listen. Different Mahavakyas were repeated again and again. Why? Because then with that they should use that as a, like we have ladders for a higher consciousness. They used that to reach a state which was said to be much higher. But problem happens is the listening gets broken because of two things: because of speaking, or we can say because of explaining, and also because of during question. You see, questioning and explanation should come. It should be there, but that should happen while listening, or it should happen after listening. Anybody? Because questioning is welcomed in the Gita. It is never said it is wrong. But should it be after the listening, or it is all right? I get the question, I ask. Anyone?
After the listening, sometimes
Yes,
there are
ma'am.
no questions.
Yes, yeah, because the questions
You-
become
Yeah,
a kind of a barrier, no?
yeah.
Sometimes we
So
have
then,
to learn to respect that time will come. Some questions have to be respected. The answer to the question may not be got at the moment, but let me become silent first. If I have not answered, I remember there was this friend of mine, she started crying in class. Suddenly, so loudly that everybody got, what has happened? Why is she crying? The teacher also came to her, and that was in high school. She said, I don't understand anything, and she was crying out loudly. My friend started looking at me. He said, by that logic, we should be crying every day. That was a joke. But this aspect, if you listen quietly, you can try, no? You can try, you can work, you can then understand. But if while the listening process is interrupted by thoughts, is interrupted by talks, is interrupted by, means in you've seen debates which take place, is there any listening taking place? Never. Especially the modern day debates online on the TV which we see. There is no listening. It is each person just talking about their view and they're talking over each other. Okay, Sunita ji has written that. Uh, yeah, if Rose, you can read it out.
Yes.
We can.
Yes,
Yes,
sure.
ma'am.
So she's saying that, sir, even the plants listen, she personally feels, because when the plants in my garden are not healthy, I hold them and, chant Narayana or Nama, and they revive very soon.
Okay, this is her experience. We can call it a lived experience. I have another friend who says I talk nice things to the plants. Actually, a rose plant. Her madam's name is also Rose, but so it was incidentally about the rose plant only. She was saying it was not blossoming. Then I called one friend. She says her elderly aunt. She comes and she says she would talk very nice things, and it was surprising that suddenly the plant responded. This is consciousness is there. So even animals are listening, plants are listening. I think human beings also must understand that is a beautiful chance for us to rise. And then, because then it is fine. After listening, then it can go to the next stage, which is what we call the manana. Because otherwise, if you speak without listening, you speak without thinking, what happens? Then it displays our ignorance. Samartha Ramdas Swami had written a book, which was one of the first books of on behavioral psychology. It is called Das Bodh. Samartha Ramdas Swami is the guru of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and he's a great spiritual leader also. He's taught what is called Manachi Shlok and so many other things. So there, my Guruji, when I joined him, he told me the first thing, read this, and the first aspect was Murkhanche Lakshana. I was like, wow, it looks like my own biography is being written. The signs of a fool. Because whatever I was doing, it was written. The person who speaks without being asked, he is a fool. Because question has not been asked, and still this person is going answering. Many times people, I want to tell this, I want, but has somebody asked? Did you listen to the question? Or did you answer whatever you want? And this is a simple practical aspect because many times little things because Krishna has not gone too deep into metaphysical aspects. He has gone very deep, but he's tried to keep it so practical because whatever is there, that is a important truth which must be practically materialized. I remember when Mr. Anthony sir had shared a beautiful song to me. He said, "When I am down, I sit and I wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me." Means the divine comes and becomes the what we can say companion. You're able to raise me up. There's a nice song called "Raise You Raise Me Up." That is a prayer. But how is it possible? Unless you listen. If you are going to keep talking, you will think everybody will listen. But no, unless you are a good listener, you cannot become a good speaker also. Because if you're not listening, you're not getting the pulse. You're not understanding what is going on. So Shravana is most important. And in Shravana, little actions, they allow us, just a simple listening can allow us to go to the next stage of learning, which is the Manana. Manana is the introspection or Chintana. Without contemplation, without reflection, what is going to happen? What you thought you will remember, what you heard, but you have not understood it. So after a while, it is going to be forgotten. But sometimes there are some memories we remember forever in entire life. Sometimes as a child, some uncle or some aunt or some our mother only has said a dialogue which you listen with your full heart. Ears are required for listening, true. But what about somebody's karnendriyas are not working? They also listen. They also listen to a different language. They understand. So it is something with the heart. If you are able to listen, it will remain. It will remain. And then that listening has to become chintana. It has to become contemplation. Otherwise, like I told you, Mahavakyas are heard. They are just heard superficially, not with the heart. Mind is analyzing. Aham Brahmasmi. There was one stupid student of a guru. We would not say the student was stupid, but he did something silly. What did that student do? He heard Aham Brahmasmi. My guru has taught me Aham Brahmasmi, so I am Brahma. Brahma's power is inside of me. Look at all these people, others, they have not realized what I have realized. I have got this power of Brahma, is what he thought. He had not understood it. So what did he do immediately up from his Gurukul when he went out? He started looking down at everybody. Look at these people. They don't know they are Brahma. I know I am Brahma. My Guru explained so well, and I am Brahma is what he was saying. As he was walking on the street, some people started coming running in the opposite direction. They said, "Hey, run away. There's a wild bull coming this way." And he said, "These people don't understand anything. They are fools. Why should I be? I am Brahma. Nothing will happen to me. So he goes further on that path. And the wild bull sees one nice target, attacks this person. Now this person is hurt both emotionally and physically. Brahma has got hurt. My guru has taught me wrong. So he goes to the guru and he says, Guru, you have given me wrong advice, wrong lessons. You are teaching falsehood. You said, Aham Brahmasmi. Katham. Look at me, what happened? He said, Didn't you see that Brahma came and told you not to go on this road? Because one person has told him not to go on that road. So you did not see that. So this was a misunderstanding, misinterpretation because of no proper chintan. Because not going deeper into the truth does not allow a person to get realized. Same was the case of another yogi who entered into a village. There the Shastris were laughing at that person because he was riding on a donkey and he was eating something. Immediately everybody started laughing at him. Now he started laughing back at them more loudly. Now the Shastri is getting a little complex also and a little irritated as well as what is the reason? Is he having some reason? Because that curiosity is still there. So he sends somebody. What happened? He continues to laugh. Then he says, no, I better go and teach that person. What is he laughing about? How can he laugh at me? He said, you are like this, so I am laughing at you. Your appearance is so comical. But why are you laughing at us? He says, no, I am not laughing at you. I am just saying Brahma is sitting on Brahma and is eating Brahma. So I'm just asking Brahma, why are you laughing? Now, what is he talking about? He is seeing at a higher level. He's not getting upset. He's not getting disturbed. Means he has understood the real meaning of the higher principle. Means Vedantic Mahavakyas of Aham Brahmasi, Tattvamasi, these are all great truths. But if you don't realize the full truth, it's going to create unnecessary ego inside of the individual, or it is going to create a lot of disturbance. Means if you study them, you will understand. Krishna talks about divinity in every living being. Krishna talks about never having hate for anybody. Even the divine cannot reside in a heart that is having hate. How can we justify hate for any cause then? It is not allowed in the spiritual path. But because of improper understanding, there is a misinterpretation and then the person goes astray. That is the reason because you need to get a certainty, a conviction, a knowledge which is called, we call Nishchaya Jnana. That will come from Shravana. The realization comes, for understanding comes from the Shravana. I have understood it. Means if you study the Upanishads from a guru, say Isha Upanishad, and the guru teaches beautifully and tells you, yes, the divinity, recognize Yatte Kalyanatam, recognize the divinity in the world first. Then only you will get the realization of Soham Asmi. If you don't realize the divinity in the world, you will never ever realize the supreme divinity. Then that person is able to manifest it or understand it. So this is important, which is what we call chintana. That is important. After chintana comes the third stage, which is the nididhyasana. This is like this is the secret of the final aspect, meaning we hear nowadays we are in an information age, isn't it? At the any moment nowadays we have artificial intelligence gathering us information at rates faster than our brain can process. But is the artificial intelligence conscious? What is the difference between an AI and an individual then? Anybody, what do you think about this new, advancement which is taking place? Is consciousness going to be manifested in artificial intelligence? Yes, anybody?
No, I don't think so. I,
Ji, sir.
I don't think consciousness can be manifested in artificial intelligence.
Ji, sir. And it is the information is being thrown to us in a pace which we cannot even process, isn't it, sir?
Yes, yes.
So, but can we utilize this information for some better work?
Probably, yes. We can use it for something, some better work,
Ji, sir,
for
maybe
transmission of
transmission.
information to larger audiences,
Larger.
that kind of thing. But consciousness, as we understand it, I don't
Ji,
think
sir.
this information can have consciousness.
It cannot have. That is with us, isn't it, sir? So
Yeah,
if we,
robots can not have consciousness. They can be operated like us, but they
yes,
can't
sir.
become us. I
We
don't
can
think.
use their robots to
Yeah,
raise our consciousness. That much we can do, isn't it, sir?
can we?
If
I
we,
don't.
yeah, that's a, okay, that's a hypothesis.
Even
Maybe
even I
I,
am not very sure if you can use robots to enhance our
as a
conscious.
tool, as a
Huh?
tool for gathering information, which we'll have to then start doing
Well,
Chintan
we'll
and
have to do it
Manan.
on our own. On our
Yeah,
own.
that we have to do. They will
Only,
not raise,
only to get.
outsourcing of that part cannot be done.
Yeah, for
But,
example, I'm in Delhi and I'm seeing you, I'm listening to
ji,
you.
sir,
This
ji,
is
sir,
a part of artificial
technological,
intelligence or robotics,
yeah,
or you call it whatever you want to. But how I process what you are saying is
ji, sir.
completely a part of my consciousness.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Ji, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. It's actually a very nice revolution taking place. We're not yet sure of how it's working right now, but it is going towards a direction of progress where maybe if we can realize, we can start using that. Information will have to be properly, channeled to first become an understanding, and that understanding has to become what we call anubhuti, an experience which will then bring us to a full realization or sakshatkar. So, like we saw these Brahma Vakyas. First time is hearing the Brahma Vakyas. Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Soham Asmi. These are all words which are on the first level. These are Vedantic statements which allow us to think, okay, what is Brahman first? Biggest question comes in, is there a Brahman? Then what is this? Kim Brahman? What is it? You see, Gita talks about Brahmarpanam, Brahmavir, Brahmagno, Brahmana Hutam, Brahmaiva Tena, Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Means what is this meaning of this Brahma? How is everything going into Brahma? Where is it beginning? Where is it ending? And then I'll come to this question since that topic is over, no, Madam Sunita ji. We will look at that a little later. Maybe in the end we can look at it since we have now moved ahead. So this aspect of what is this realization of this Vakya, what we heard by Shruti or by Shravana, that has to be taken into Chintana. Then I will have to understand, yes, if Brahman is there inside of everybody. Means that Brahman is inside of me. There is nobody higher than me, nobody lower than me. Nobody can, outside evaluation will not define me. And I must also stop defining people. Somebody is higher, somebody is lower, somebody is smarter, somebody is less. That mistake was done in a Gurukul, where everybody said Giri was not so smart. Giri was not so smart because he was one of the disciples of Shankaracharya, because that was his learning phase. He was learning, he was listening, he was growing, and they felt he does not have any talent. And he also felt he would go and ask the senior disciples, when will I get it someday? Will I get that realization? And they would laugh and say, yes, you will get it someday. And suddenly, when there was one great Vedantic discussion about to take place, that day Giri was missing. That time, one of the Shishya passed a very caustic remark to the Shankaracharya, saying maybe it's not required. If he's present or not present, what is it difference is it going to make? And some laughed. And the Guru said, wait. And in comes, a few moments later, Giri comes running. He was doing some of his seva for his Guru only. He had probably gone to do some of the chores of the ashram. So that is why he got delayed, not because of his laziness. And when he started speaking in a different meter. Guru Pungava Pungava Ketana, the stuti of his Guru he started because he got a sakshatkar. Elsewhere, he got an experience. Guru is sitting in one place, he has got a realization because whatever he heard over so many days of his sadhana, now that is like what we call connecting of the dots. No? That has taken place. Dots will connect only when we do the manan. If we don't, we will have scattered experiences which have not connected. But when the dots connect, he became Totakacharya, one of the great acharyas, later became the head also. So in our life also, sometimes when we connect all the dots, we can even laugh at our failures. We can sometimes see, yes, because I failed here, it was good that I failed. That failure was a stepping stone for something else, and suddenly a beautiful pattern emerges, but that will not emerge until we connect the dots. Otherwise, we will still be trapped in our own lower thoughts. That is why this Chintan allows us to go to states which are higher in consciousness, higher than even what we call the mind. That is something which we can use the mind as a springboard to enter into the kingdom of Brahma Vidya. That is what many people say. That is what the Upanishads do. Each Upanishad has a different style, but each wants to go to that same kingdom of Brahma Vidya. Some is just like people have arrows, people have weapons in a battle. So these yogis developed, there was a Kathopanishad through a story, Prashna Upanishad through questions, Kena Upanishad through riddles, Isha Upanishad through beautiful poetry. Mandukya was metaphysical only. So all these roots were used for going into a state of manana to get a realization of the Supreme Brahman. So that was the second one. And then after understanding, the realization must come, the anubhuti comes. And when the anubhuti comes, the person becomes what we call quiet and beautifully blissful because the person has realized. Means I think anybody has heard a story of the ugly duckling in school. Maybe it must have been taught, or in our regional languages, we have much beautiful name for it.
Yes.
Rajahamsa. Yes, Prachiji,
Yeah,
you've heard of
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
Yes,
we've
it's
heard
there
of
is
the
a
story.
very nice song also on that.
You would like to share some words of it or something about it, Prachiji?
Yeah, of course. It's
Okay.
about the duckling who is different than the group with which it gets connected,
Yes.
and then it is struggling hard to get the identity or get mixed up with them. But then there are the fellow ducklings who are constantly abusing it and not involving him or it into their group. And then
Yes.
suddenly, at a moment when it looks at the reflection and he realizes that it is not a duckling, it is a swan. So
Yes.
that's something, a point of realization that comes into its life.
Yes. 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 And it was like it is not. He's not a duck, but he's a Rajahamsa, and
Rajahamsa.
Manasarovar is my home. That was the identity. And then he goes, raises that symbol of Rajahamsa is that is why in spirituality it is a very big, what we can say, great symbolism because that rising of consciousness, which that bird does, is like the flight of human consciousness. When we realize it, we are not going to be fed by desires. When we realize I am not going to be manipulated by these gunas, then you will not be in the cage, no? Otherwise, this golden cage, everybody is like, okay, yeah, this cage is fine. I'm happy. But you are at the mercy of somebody else to be happy. And then suddenly, like that Rajahamsa, you also see, as if, for example, the bird sees outside. See, look, there are other birds like me. They are flying free. And then he says, I don't want morsels thrown of pity thrown by somebody. I will go to the Manasarovar. I will experience fresh lotus seeds which are my own, which I have earned. And then this becomes the liberation, or that is the anubhuti which we talk about. And that is something which we must also realize because then only the real progress or the real journey begins. And that is something which can come only when we do this deeper chintan, deeper manan. And when people keep doing this, one day the sakshatkar comes. That realization comes. We don't have to run after the realization. When is it coming? When is it coming? It will come. Any effort is done, it is we have this karya karana. This connection is there. You do some karma, karma will lead to karma phala. It can be one of the three types, ishtam, anishtam, or mishram, as the Gita talks about. But we don't need to worry about the outcome if we focus with full sincerity. One day, that realization does come. And that is exactly what Gita is also all about. Krishna also tells that same thing. So, anubhuti, that is what is the final thing. Then you will be able to realize what that divine is also you. You are also divine. It's like there's this nice dharana mantra which they talk about before this Atmashatakam. Swatma Ramoham Bhuma Parama Sukhi Paramatmaham Paripurnoham Parat Paroham Kevaloham. Means this realization is that, what is it? Svena swasmin swayam brahma swe mahimni swanubhutam satyam jnanadhanam siddham sahaja sukham. Meaning when that anubhuti comes, you become calm. Many times we see a lot of saints always smiling, always in a state of who's cracked a joke. We don't know if they're hearing jokes directly from the divine, but they're able to see the game of life. They're able to see. I think professors also understand when they see young students, first year students, they show a lot of excitement. You know, हाँ ये अभी excitement अगले 4 महीने के बाद बदलने वाला है. And then from that one or two will come out. You can get that experience, no, because you have got that anubhav. From the anubhav, you get the understanding. Like that in life also, that anubhav is important. So that comes, its journey begins with Shravanam, then followed by Manana, and then Nididhyasana. These three are what we can beautifully say as the, I think the topics are very nicely chosen by the university. It is most appreciated that very nicely they have talked about this, because these three are the simplest way of learning and growing. But then again comes the question about, if you see there's a family and society. Most of the time that is the problem, isn't it? We feel pressures come from family or pressures come from society. Then that anubhuti does not come, or I cannot go after the anubhuti only because I'm having so many pressures. But can we rid ourselves of this burden, or we can just say, I ignore the society, I'll just leave the society, I'll leave the family. Can we do that? Anybody?
No, we can't, because there
It's
are so
not that we
many.
don't have the capacity. We have the capacity. Anybody has the capacity to do it. But is it right?
No, if it was so, then Gita was not to be told on the war
Ah,
field.
yes, yes, isn't it? Absolutely. Very perfectly said. Because it's the Gita is also Gita. Gita also is in the battlefield. And Arjuna, you see, he first. It is very interesting because of attachments. Arjuna thinks he is doing all of this for his family. He thinks he's doing for his family when he starts lecturing Krishna. Before the Gita of Krishna starts, there is an interesting uh, Gita of Arjuna, which is a crying Gita, which is a sad song, a song of sorrow, where he starts talking about how Krishna, see, for my own children, I have done this sacrifice, for my family, I have done this, and look what has happened. Then he starts quoting Shastras as if he is now a Pandit. And who is he teaching the Shastras to? To Krishna himself. Why? In his emotions. And all the time he's justifying his emotions in the name of family. I'm doing this for my family. Many times we unnecessarily criticize or give a bad name to our family in the name of our attachments only, like Arjuna did. And finally, what does Arjuna say? When all of his tactics are not working, first, Arjuna says, I'm feeling feverish. Like students say before exam, I don't want to go to school. He says, no, my hand is like this, my head is like this. Krishna is keeping a terse silence. Krishna is the example of best listener. When Arjuna accuses Krishna also, Ki Krishna, were you greedy? Did you want share of the wealth? Is this the reason we entered into this battle because of her? There's a shloka like that where he is saying to Krishna, was it because of desire of wealth? Who is he talking to? The great emperor, Yadav emperor, who has the strength of his entire Narayani Sena, or without Narayani Sena, he can claim any part of the territory as his own. And look at that emperor. What has that emperor done? He has become the Sarathi or charioteer of a Arjuna. That is a clear indication that he is not greedy. But you see, Arjuna is accusing him. When our friends accuse us of something we are not, how do we react? Lot of reaction, lot of anger, lot of frustration. How dare you? Or I wasted my time on you. You have done this. You have betrayed me. You too, Brutus, XYZ, extra things come out. But Krishna is quiet because he's understanding that, yes, sometimes, being a very good listener is important. It is very important to be a good listener. You don't have to get the suffering of another person inside yourself. Keep that barrier. But don't react. Don't react like that's what Krishna does. And afterwards, only then his Gita begins, because this is an important aspect. Without listening, We cannot move ahead. But then again, the Arjuna who is claiming to do all of this, he's claiming to cry because of his family. He says, I will run away from the battle. Will that benefit? With my simple question, will Arjuna's running away from the battle benefit the family whom he is so concerned about? There was a suicidal tendency inside of Arjuna. He said, let me get killed so my family will feel happy. Will anybody feel happy?
No,
Yes,
sir.
Dr.
No one
Meenaji?
will feel happy with this. This is not
Yes,
the
yes.
right way to address any problem, any issue. Running
Yes,
away is
ma'am.
not the option.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this happens, no, in the emotions and attachments, people are not in what their own senses. So they
Yeah.
start talking what we can
Yeah.
understand. Krishna also understands he is now just emotions, they are emotions speaking. It is not Arjuna right now. It is Tamas talking. Tamas should not be entertained, so he keeps quiet, allows him. So, but you see the name in the family's name, it's actually in the attachments, because of attachments, that he feels that this is to be done. Another example is about Valya. We all know about Rishi Valmiki, isn't it? The great Rishi. But before he became Rishi Valmiki, anybody knows about him? What he would do?
He was a robber. He was a robber, and
Ji sir.
he would kill people.
But
And
yes, he dacoit, no?
yeah, he was a
Yes.
robber, a dacoit. And then he also said that I do it for my family,
Ah. And
which
then Narada came to teach him.
it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yes. He says, you are doing it for your family. Go and ask how many
Us,
of your
yeah.
family members will bear your sins.
All of them refused.
Yes, yes, his elderly parents, he went last. They
Mhm.
said, we are too old, so we will not take your papa. Then he goes to his wife. You have been my partner. I never asked you to become a dacoit. Then he goes to children. They say, we are too young. You have done this. We didn't have a choice. So many times in our attachments, because of our attachments, Anguli Malji also, Madam has also said. So this aspect, in the name of attachment, we justify wrong. In the name of family also, we should understand what is the truth. And that is why role of a person in relation to the family, relation to society is very important. I remember one person, when we were setting up the unit, we faced certain challenges because we have to get government approvals from XYZ departments. So many departments, so many people, they said, no, you cannot go directly, go through the agent. So I thought, okay, let's go ask the agent. He had his quotation for each department, you have to pay this, which is not the fees, which is his fee. I said, what do you mean by this? He said, this particular approval will require you this many lakh. I was shocked. One, I didn't have the money is one truth. Second was, why should I give a wrong indirect aspect? Why do I do this? I don't want to do it. It is wrong. It's corrupt. It's not a practice I want to support. And when I asked him, ki, why? He said, they also have family. That was his dialogue. It made me laugh so much. They are earning, and that is not their family. But you see that this desire, it goes on, and sometimes we justify it, and that leads to nothing. It leads, it does not give what we call trupti. It does not create santosha. Definitely, there is no ananda. So, this aspect, what is the meaning of family, has to be understood. Is family also just the family of people who are of the same ideology? Is is the family just a family belonging to the same blood relation? Or do we, according to Sanatan Dharma, recognize Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? We have all examples. We have Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as an example of caring for the family, like Udara Jaritananstu, with a broad-mindedness. Or we have the example of Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva. One side will allow you to become like Swami Vivekananda. My brothers and sisters of America, he goes in, he's having a universal mindset. Another will unfortunately make you Dhritarashtra, and we know what happened to Dhritarashtra's family. So that is an example we must understand. And the Gita gives us a very, I think there's a question again raised. Uh, yes, Madam, would you like to read it
Yeah.
out?
Sir,
Yes, please.
how about the life of a person working as a butcher? Isn't it the karma to kill for a living?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So, what about his life? What is the question though? He's living that life. So, what is the question, Sunita ji?
Is She's saying, isn't it his karma to kill for a living?
Yeah, so he is doing his life. So the question, what is, I mean, I want to know the exact tarka, or what is the inference that from the question, because it's
Yeah,
his karma
Sunita
as
ji,
a
you can
butcher.
unmute. You can unmute, Sunita ji.
Sir, how can he raise his status from this karma of Rajas to Sattvic? Because he is supposed to kill for a living.
So
And
because he's
those
doing his that action, that's his work. He's going to be. You can take a guarantee. He's Satvik, Rajasic, or Tamasic.
for him, isn't it Sattvic? Because he is doing his duty to its fullest. So
Have you
even
heard
after
of
he,
Sunita ji? Have you heard of Vyadha Gita, the Gita of the butcher?
can you please explain, sir?
Okay, in very short, because we have a little shortage of time. So there was this one particular yogi. He had attained some high state of consciousness. He had attained what we call siddhis also, something like he could make Agni Prakat. And once he was meditating in his meditation, he was disturbed by the birds in the forest. So he did a tratak, or a firm observation on those birds, and those birds caught fire. That was his siddhi. And so he again went back to his dhyana. After his dhyana, he came. He came to the after what would all the yogis do that time? They would go ask collect bhiksha, isn't it? So he came to a home inside of the city, like home on the outskirts of that forest, on the borders. Om Bhavati Bhikshan Dehi. He says that loudly. And there a lady is there inside who is the householder. She is a gruhini. She is looking after the duties in the home. She just says, okay, yes, he has come. Yogi is coming. Fine, I'll give you the bhiksha. So she is just coming. And she's about to come in. That time her husband enters. So because her husband enters, she's like, her mind, he's having one-minded devotion. She says, my duty right now first is to serve my husband, then I'll serve that person. You just wait for me sometime. Some more time. I have to fulfill this duty right away. Now, whether which is first, which is second, I don't know. You can ask her. But this is a story that I'm narrating. So she asks the yogi to wait because I'll just come in a minute. I'm just completing one duty which I have already started. So she takes some time. Now here our yogi, who is supposed to be not impatient, is now getting a little impatient. He is now raising his voice. And he says again, he shouts out, Om Bhavati Bhikshan Dehi. Now, from the inside, she says, "Yes, I'm coming," and she just comes in a hurry. And she says, I am not those birds that you can burn. I was just doing my duty. Now, this yogi is shocked. How is this supposedly ordinary householder? How is this householder knowing the depths of my Gupta sadhana? How can she predict that I have reached this siddhi? And so she is shocked, and he's shocked. She says, no, no, I owe it all to my guru. And she is surprised. He's surprised. Who's the guru? I must meet this guru who has given this knowledge. I cannot leave. I have to go, is what he says. And she gives the direction also. And she says, this is the time to go. And it's like, no, no, I will go first there only. And he goes. And that road leads to a butcher. And there, that butcher is there doing his work. Now, here, this yogi is more irritated. He is irritated looking at this butcher. What is this? You are supposed to be guru. Are you the same person? How can you do that? And it's actually Narayana who has taken that form as telling you not to look at the outside just because somebody's profession, you're not to look at it. So that is a Vyada Gita. It's a short story. You can actually read the Vyada Gita to understand the Gita that is sung after that knowledge but is passed on. There are so many types of Gitas also. There's a Yama Gita also told by the god of death. You can see Kathopanishad also talking about some of the things there. So this is just the point that we need not try to judge anybody whether it is Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. I don't know. I want to see whether I am Sattvic, Rajasic, or Tamasic. That should be my lookout, because the moment we start passing judgment on another person, somewhere inside of us, we have created a bheda. Krishna has told, "No buddhi bheda." Stop creating a divide. Go on your sadhana. If you are the teacher of that person, tell that person what you want to say. If that person asks you also, sometimes. Many times as a teacher goes to tell, still student does not want to listen. No matter how much the teacher tries, the teacher's best teachings falls on deaf ears. So it is not required, not to, that is not our lookout though. But this is the aspect. So this management of the individual, management of self, And then in that, when we raise our consciousness, we stop making divides. Because in one particular means about Gita has not talked directly about what we say the different types of foods have been told as sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. What is the food? What is its consequence of eating that food? Sattvic food creates what? Rajasic food creates what? Tamasic food creates. But Gita has not specifically mentioned which type of food is sattvic, which type of food is rajasic. I had a very interesting experience. It is anecdotal because it is connected to my career. I had drug license inspection going on, and the inspector, he belonged to another dharma, but he knew I am connected to Gita, and he would call me, "Hey, Gita man, what are you doing?" That was his dialogue. So I was like, "Yes." So I want to ask you a question. Now I am driving him to the factory for the inspection. He is going to give the report of inspection, and he does not worship Rama. He is from another religion, but he asked me a question. What do you have to say about Sri Rama eating vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food in the forest? Now, first thing is, if I get irritated and respond rajasically to him, I may get a good answer, but our application is going to get cancelled. That was very clear. He was known to be not following any rules. That was something which was known. But I can't, for the sake of that, I can't allow what is wrong to go on. So I said, "Sir, we don't worship him for his preference of food. We worship him for the type." But I said, "What do you think? What do you think he has eaten?" "Sir, I am not so well versed, so I don't know what he has eaten, but I'm sure idli dosa will not be available there. So what he ate, he may have eaten that time, sir. It is not my question what he is eating. Somebody's food choice is not my question. I will not try to tell it, but I understand it and I have experienced." I said, "When I ate biryani and went to play a tournament, my coach had told me not to eat, but I ate it and I had a problem in the match." That was a Rajasic food which was creating disturbance. So then I learned from my experience that Sattvic food is good for my body. It will allow me to go ahead. So I think, sir, I will not comment on this. So let us not get into it because unnecessary fights happen instead of the higher truth which we look at. In that fight, we lose out on, we can say, no, because in the Isha Upanishad, one side is Vidya, that is also limited in one end. Another side is avidya. No reconciliation. It's only going to be compromise. Whoever has more force will dominate at one time. And the person who is dominated is going to get irritated but wait for a chance. And again, it will be a perennial fight. Instead of that, we can try to harmonize through reconciliation. So whether or not the butcher is, as madam has asked that question, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, whatever he is doing his duty, it is his dharma. If it becomes adharma by law to do that action, then he will be bearing the consequences of that. But otherwise, still, and that job is not mine also, isn't it? Unless it is something, what is justice has to be upheld. That is true. But if that is permitted by the law, I should not go and try to stop that person from doing it. It is simple as that. As far as the gunas, again, the three gunas or consciousness, this is important to look at ourselves as what is the guna that is inside of me. Is the sattva guna rising? Or is it rajasic? Because one guna creates bheda. There is a buddhi, which is, there's a Krishna talks about two types of buddhis, vyavasayatmika buddhi and the avyavasayatmika buddhi. One has branches which will keep branching. Means there will be so many divisions. One division, second division, third division, 100,000. It will see divisions everywhere. Another one is the harmonizing one, which will say Ekoham Bahusyami or Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti. Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti. I think I just repeated that. I do not know. No. If you say Naga sannyasis are Sattvic or not, which Naga sannyasi is Sattvic, I'll have to do a clinical trial. I will do that after following a proper protocol. Then I will be able to tell you, provided I get a good ethical approval for conducting such a trial. But it may vary from case to case. There might be a Rajasic Naga sannyasi, there may be a Sattvic Naga sannyasi, there may be a Tamasic one also. That will not allow us to give a label on the entire group or samuha. So anyway, let us now get back into the. I think we have another 20 minutes, 15 minutes, after which there will be questions.
Yes.
So let us then probably go to the next topic. Means the field that we have to work on. Means the field, family and society. What are the fields of action? Krishna tells the first field we have to work on is our sharira. Normally, people say spirituality does not means living behind the body. No, it means becoming conscious of your body and transforming it. Krishna himself was a yogi, but he was also so physically fit as well. Krishna was a liberated one. He was also beautiful. Also, many times people had objections. Why is he not having a big beard like other rishis at that time? Who knows what objections people may have? But he has told Arjuna, "Idam shariram kaunteya, kshetramitya bhidhiyate, etadyo veti tam prahuhu, kshetragnya iti tadvidah." So this field, the first Krishna is saying it is the Sharira. This Sharira is the thing you have to look at. This is the Sharira, this is the field that you must be aware of. Anybody has heard of this slogan, Shariram Adyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam? Since it's Delhi University, I'm sure many will know about it. Anybody? Shariram Adyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. Yes, it's Kalidasa's words, but it is a motto of an institute. Anybody wants to guess? A very premium institute in Delhi only. You can guess, no problem. If it is wrong also. What do you think it's connected to? Medical field? I gave a clue.
Yeah.
Yes, by now somebody could have Googled it also. All India Institute of Medical Sciences. AIMS, yes, absolutely. Shariram Adhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. Your first duty is because your life journey is going to be actuated by this in the Sharira only. And you have to take care just because I am reading high philosophy. Because say I'm reading Gita and I'm talking about Gita shlokas, people say Krishna will protect you. So can I stop wearing a helmet on my way to the work on my motorcycle? No, no, Krishna's kavach is there, no need helmet. Officer, don't give me challan. I cannot do anything like that because the first aspect is the Sharira. First field we must recognize that field is this Sharira, is what Krishna says. But then he talks about this field extending. This field extends beyond the Sharira, beyond the physical body. He says, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetragna yor jnanam yat ajnanam matam mama. Recognize that there is one knower in the entire field. Means first your body, who knows best? What is you only, isn't it? When you go to the doctor, you will have to be conscious about yourself. Doctor, these are the indicated medicines which work on me. These are the medicines that I'm allergic to. This is how my reaction is. This is how my case history. So you know that. But then there are various other fields. That fields include different aspects in the nature. Different people, different society. If you look at in work also, we have so many fields. Each person is a specialist in one field. But then there is one supreme divinity which is recognized, which is to be recognized, is what Krishna says. Recognizing that is the greatest knowledge because with that you will be able to see oneness, you will be able to rise beyond all this bheda. And that is something which we must realize because unless we realize that, we will not be able to, reach to the higher truth. Because this is the what we call the 13th adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about first who is the supreme knower, who is the knower, what is the field, and he says you understand this field. Now, when we talk about society, is it a beautiful society? World, is it perfect? Is it ideal? The society and the world that we live in. Is it picture perfect?
No.
Yes. No, isn't it? There is something called vikara, or there is what we call deformities. Many times we ignore it. Say in your apartment system, that is not my problem, it is that neighbor's problem. Somebody is doing wrong, but it's not mine, it is the neighbor's because I am not connected directly. But we are connected with everybody, isn't it? So when injustice starts spreading in one direction and you don't do anything about it, what is going to happen? Well, it will spread and then you will be the victim of that injustice, but then you cannot cry that time because you have only allowed that injustice to flourish. So our connection must be alert. We must be connected with the society. If we are doing sadhana and trying to go to some higher plane of consciousness by getting disconnected from the world, we are failing in our basic step of sadhana. We are failing in following principles of Krishna also, because Krishna has talked about it is for the world. He says, I have no duties to discharge. I have already reached a state of trupti. I am already reached, accepted, and achieved everything. I don't need to do anything, but I do it because this is the way. Means like Loka Sangraha is what he says, betterment of the world, betterment of the society, coming together of oneness in the society. We have to realize that, and that is the ultimate aim. And that was also the aim of the Vedic rishis. Samanena va akuti samano hridayani cha. We become samana, samana mantra, samana. Our thoughts, our actions, let us all agree and live in joyous communion. So maybe if we can start off, we start off changing the world by changing ourselves first, changing our society, our family. Start off with your home. Let me create a good atmosphere. Let me create a conducive atmosphere in the house. Let me not be the person who is creating disharmony at least. And then watch how slowly cumulative action takes place. Many people doubt the power of an individual to bring about change. But my question is, can an individual bring about a drastic change in the society? Any ordinary individual?
No, sir. An individual on his own
Hmm.
cannot bring about a drastic change in the society. The change can be in himself or herself, not the society.
Not the society. But madam,
No,
like
but I
now,
feel yes, we can. The
okay,
process may be slow. Like we
okay,
can the whatever we do, and if we can explain it to others, it can be like kind of infectious. People understand, and
okay.
we can change others
Means
also.
we can initiate a chain
Yes,
reaction,
yes. The
maybe.
process may be
Yes.
slow because we are
Yeah.
starting with just one individual. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. And this is something I think both the points are correct, because one way sometimes how much can an individual do? But when an individual works together, when the individual works together, like one very interesting moment which is now developing in Pondicherry where I am located, and something very interesting happened is we have now faced the locals actually are experiencing an influx of tourists, which are more than lot more than we can control. So much that the area is being littered very badly by the tourists, especially on the weekends. And when the tourists also start littering, nobody is picking up, what's going to happen? It's going to get accumulated. And this is not our job. This is not going to be done. Who is going to make a change? This is the entire question. Nobody, it's like who is going to bell the cat is the question. And so they just like three, four attempts, so many people made attempts and stopped, made attempts and stopped. So recently, like less than a year back, two elderly friends who were in their 60s. They were talking. They were students of Pondicherry's ashram only, Arvindo Ashram School. They later on they are developed and successful in their lives with good businesses. Now they're in their 60s. Their friends were walking on the beach and they were remarking, "Ki, see, when we were young, we could walk. We could walk barefoot and run around. Now you see there are broken glass bottles, there are diapers, there are so many things." And they were just talking like generally how they say two old people talking. No? It was like that. Now there was somebody very young at heart in their conversation. That was the other friend's father, who was very senior. He immediately said, "You are going to clean," to that other gentleman who is 65 years old. Now this person was suddenly shocked. "How do you mean I?" He said, "I'm not doing it alone. If you are joining, I will join." Now, so two elderly people in their 60s, they started their work. They started cleaning once a week. This too has now become so many people joined. It's become a movement. The commissioner of the municipality is joined in. Everybody is now bringing a transformation. And so a small action which is initiated somewhere is creating a great change. Gita also talks about Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Smallest action done in a state of karmyog, without any expectation, done in a proper manner, can protect from the greatest danger. Practical example in our house. Every day, one person has the job of closing the door, isn't it? Husband or wife, they take that duty. Yeah, I will close the door, main door. And generally, in most homes, only one person does it. It's a very small action, but that action protects the entire home. So, something like that, conscious actions, they are never waste. We may not see immediately the outcome. So, like that, we have to, if we look at our duty towards society, if we forget our connection with the society, then we are not following the spirituality of Krishna or the divine, because all examples are about transformation of the world. And this knowledge which is got must be spread, is what Krishna has also throughout the Gita told. We have to rise and understand and spread that what we call light without getting what we can say deviated. So
Rose,
yes, yeah, Rosie,
Rose,
if somebody has
can I ask a question? Can I ask a
yes sir,
question?
yes please, of course sir.
One is an aside which I find very interesting. Your name, Shushrut,
Ji
uh,
sir.
and you are working with Ayurvedic medicines. So
Okay.
when you were being named, did your parents realize that you're going to be a modern day Shushrut?
No, so actually, I'm a mechanical engineer who is after engineering found a guru and changed the streams. Then I did
Yeah.
a BSc after 7 years of. It was mother actually out of gratitude for a surgeon. She is a pathologist, so she wanted to keep it,
Wow.
and that is it was like a blessing, I can say.
There's a very beautiful museum exhibition on Shushruth in the surgeon's hall in Edinburgh.
Yes,
So
sir.
he has reached there too. But
Yes, sir. This
my
Samhita
question,
is there.
yeah, my question is about the relationship between the individual and the society in our perspective of the Gita. I can understand that the individual can, at his own level, make many attempts to understand and to practice what is there in the Gita, and might actually kind of improve his own self from where he is. But my problem is with the society as large. When we talk about the society, it's not only my home and my
Hmm.
family, but also my city, my country, and the whole world, if I
Hmm.
see it. The complexity of that is so huge, of what is happening in the world today. If I just see the world today, and if I am, then I feel quite deterred and quite daunted at
Yes, sir.
where am I located? Me, one individual out of 700 crore people in the world, where am I located? If I move outside and I go to space and I see the whole world and I see India there, and I see that everybody in India, 140 crore people of India, are practicing what Gita is preaching. Will Then my question would be, with that light that is shining in India, will that kind of
Okay.
in the other parts of the world also?
What a beautiful thought. Yes, sir.
Vivekanand kind of expressed that in 1897 when he was
Yes, sir.
speaking in Chicago. So I just want you to
Yes, sir. Sure,
yeah,
sir. I
yeah.
think that's a wonderful question, sir, which has a great context because it's socially bound and it is also a spiritual and social at the same time. Now, if you see, Arjuna thought he was doing something for the society, for the future generation, and everything in the very first adhyay. The burden was on his head. It was on his head where he talked about, he says the Shashvata Sanatan Dharma is going to get destroyed, Kula Dharma will be destroyed, X, Y, Z. He talked about as if gravity will suddenly start working on Pitar Loka and Pitar Loka ancestors will also get disturbed. And he was in a state of, because the doer was, he was thinking he is the doer. But when he got the Vishwarupa Darshana, that time he uses these words, looking at the power, the raw energy of the Vishwarupa, his hands become close, folded, and he says, Sanatanastvam Purusho Matome, with trembling with fear. He says, I earlier was thinking I am the guardian. And the Vishwarupa tells him, he says, Nimitta Matra Bhava Savya Sachin, without any hatred, without dvesha to anybody, just become the instrument. Meaning, understand I am already doing the work, you are just an instrument. Or like how Sri Aurobindo had got this anubhuti inside of the prison, because he was a elite yogi and he was a great revolutionary. He was worried about Bharat. He had the vision for the world. He had a vision for even India, how India is going to move ahead. The ideal of human unity and all of these things were there inside of him. But now, materially, he was stopped. A false case was hoisted. He was put into an Alipur prison, 6 by 9 feet, waiting the capital punishment. But there he got the experience, and there he became one. He got that experience of the divine. He said, I saw the divine in the grating. I saw the divine in the judge. I saw the divine in the prosecution, in the guards who were sentry. He said, I saw in the coarse blanket also, it was Madhava who was hugging me inside of that small, dingy prison. And then he said, I suddenly became relaxed, meaning we have to become the Nimitta Matra. And that job is actually the divine's job. Yogeshwara is called Yogeshwara because he is not come because of some nepotism or some post. He is Yogeshwara means he is going to bring that union. And if you see the forces across the world, from the east and the west, Bharat is now becoming centrally aligned, especially latest political developments and movements. We are seeing the role of Bharat becoming stronger. And again, Bharat is what not just in the boundary of the physical boundary of Bharat. Bharat is now Sarvabhaum. Indians are everywhere. And again, why Indians only? We can see the spirit of oneness. Whoever is having that person is Bharatiya, no? Who is having Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam feeling, that person can be called that. And these are going to be the change makers. And maybe nobody has seen how is the next avatar, because we understand avatarhood. When we look at the evolution of avatarhood from aquatic to amphibious and everything, we go on, and then after Ram, after Krishna, there is say Buddha, and then 10th avatar, nobody knows. We had in a Gita workshop, there was an argument: is he going to come on a white horse? Is he going to come on a black horse? I said, if he comes on a bullet, also, we'll not have a problem which vehicle he is on. But what there was a possibility of multiple manifestations because each avatar actually broke a paradigm in the avatarhood itself. So maybe, sir, a time will come. We have seen hopeless things grow viral. A virus got viral across the world. Viral moments take place where suddenly people come start dancing for no reason and everybody we will start dancing. But maybe a time may come where a viral moment of consciousness will awaken in different places and individuals will start off in different parts. Maybe that could be the time. And so instead of, if we take the, like, for example, I remember thermodynamics was my worst subject in college. It was too difficult to understand, but just understanding the thermodynamic principles inside of a syllabus is difficult. If I try to visualize thermodynamics of the universe, it will be unbelievably overwhelming for me. Instead, if I just look at, I have been given a kshetra, I have been given a role, I have been given a place. Let me work on that place, and then that place would become, because for us, means I was also very lucky to be part of that Clean Earth initiative. So many people said, what systemic change will you manifest? You are actually feeding to the egos of people. You are doing work which government should do. This is not your job. What are you talking about? Dustbins. What's the use? People are stealing dustbins was our experience. So we developed steel-proof dustbins which are not having any resale value. It was a waste. Like a lot of people said it's a wasted energy, but now at least a small stretch has got cleaned. But that is still just our mission is clean earth. So this is not going to stop with this. But if we take up everything at one time, it will not be able to. Individual cannot do that. But if the individual aligns with a consciousness which is flowing everywhere,
Then,
even through opposite people, sir. Maybe then, sir, I
then
think it's very much manifestable, the
thanks.
transformation.
Thank
Thank you,
you so
sir.
much. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you, sir. Namaskaram. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you so much, Shushruti, for
Thank you.
this enlightening
Thank you,
and
madam.
such a comprehensive and broad
Thank you.
session on the three gunas and also the way to understand and learn them. Now, sir, if you allow, we can take a couple of few questions if there are any.
Yes, sir.
I saw a
Sure,
few
sure.
questions which were there in the chat box earlier, so maybe we can start with them. And then I also
Okay.
have like one small quick question to add
Okay,
on that.
ma'am. Fine.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
So
Thank you.
somebody had asked that, especially the circumstances are very difficult because of destiny, then how is it possible to maintain our sattva gun, especially when the person is very deeply agitated by what is happening and by the circumstances that the that the fate has created for us. So that is the question.
Okay.
Maybe in
Uh,
this, I might just add on one like one more dimension where you spoke about Shravana and how listening. So the sometimes I personally feel like sometimes there is listening to others, and then there is also listening to nothingness, which is what you
hmm.
were also, I think, highlighting. How can we cultivate that? Maybe that's the.
Okay, I think both are quite big questions. The first one is about honestly the question of fate and free will. No? Means where is the free will and what is the fate? Means now we said we have a body, isn't it? Body has its limitations. In the 18th chapter of the Gita, Krishna talks about five factors which allow us to, means fate can put a, say, full stop. I mean, can put a comma, but fate does not have that much power to put a full stop on a journey of a person's life. And this example I have had of two people, both are young. One is my own classmate. She just became a mom a few days back, but she was the one diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. And my mother, being a pathologist, she identified and she said in that particular period, 18 out of 18, 17 people did not make it. And she was the 18th one. But you see, now she got a very bad fate, we can call it, isn't it? Getting a diagnosis. There were options of giving up. You know what she did? Her name was Dora. Her name is Dora. She's a wonderful inspiration. She's one of the people who has inspired me to write this book also. Around it was 10 years ago I'm talking about. That was when inside of the cancer ward, the same girl who had never seen an injection or she ran away from injections. She lost all her hair. She put on so much weight, puncture marks all over her body. Anybody would have given up because of the situation or emotional trouble turmoil so much because she was going to get married. Somebody was going to be with her, left her at that time because of this. And it was all emotionally horrible. Nothing. And there was a fear of a second coming of another due to the chemotherapy, second manifestation of a different type of cancer, side effect. And all such aspects were going on. For the 1 year of her life, it was horrible. But she went on step by step. Her goals were smaller. She immediately went, means you see, like my Guruji always says, live in daytime compartments. In a bad situation, when your time is bad, instead of saying your time is bad, you can actually, if you start looking at things in a different perspective, the emotions will never take over you. And little by little, her entire story should become a movie, is what I feel, because my friend, how she got married also, it was like so many hurdles. Then the marriage was getting delayed. Nobody wanted a bridegroom. I mean, they didn't want a bride who is having a past history of illness. And but she liked somebody. That person she tried to push away, but still that person persevered. And the entire journey, if you see, is how our life's journey is not only like in movies we get a finish, full stop, but life's journey keeps going on. Today everything is good. I shouldn't get excited. I shouldn't get overexcited and again spoil everything. Just like that, if something is too bad, I shouldn't think it is everything is so bad that I cannot do anything. Because people have altered their fates. Means a new destiny is written from a bad fate. I think anybody has heard of the name Dashrath Manji? They call him the Mountain Man.
Yeah, yeah. I have heard, sir.
Yes. So a man with a physical, ordinary hand tools at a time when we have machines and we have ability to break mountains. Nobody was coming to that village because that village did not have any political significance. And his wife died because there was no hospital. He had to walk across the mountain. Now this is called worst fate, no? And he's laborer, no money also. Normally such a person cannot do anything. He can give up. He can say, no, enough. This is a horrible world. This world is a useless place. My dearest one thing nice was my wife, and she's also left me now. Now I have nothing in this world. But this man, he channeled his rage into something constructive. He started trying to break the mountain with his own hand, with hand tools. Somebody says it's useless. I think 100 people would have told, 1,000 people would have told because it was not a one day's task. It was for years. But you know what he did? He turned his sorrow instead of becoming into depression or he tried to do something better for the world. He said, maybe let there not be another person like me who loses his wife because of non-accessibility. And this is a story of a man breaking a mountain. Now, fate is bad, but karma is so strong. Karma can write a new story. Both the friends I talked about, their actions were so strong that the diagnosis of the doctor. One other was a lung cancer, the one I talked about, who was told 4 months only. So this is something which can be altered. Yes, Rosji, I think we don't have to give up. Gita teaches us that and everybody, I think everybody, all great teachers teach us that only. The path is about rising. Whichever dharma also you see there asking you to do forward for betterment of the world, we must understand that if we can not give up, things can make a big difference. Almost every great person, we call them great because they have not given up. Otherwise, they are all ordinary only. Everybody is ordinary, and my teacher says, be an ordinary person living an extraordinary life. We don't have to try to show anything. Our actions will speak. Yes, Ji.
Thank you so much, sir,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
answering all of these questions and for the interesting interaction that all of us
Thank
had
you.
together.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you again
Blessed.
for
Blessed.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the participants for participating and interacting and being with us throughout the day. With this, we'll close the session for today.
Namaste.
Rachita ma'am, please end the session from your side.
Yes,
Thank you so
yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.